Xianxia has infiltrated the Black Soul Divine Sect, and their vengeance has begun. The Divine Martial Realm watches, and a merchant guild offers a desperate bargain. Leave a like and subscribe to witness the final reckoning. Ruyan's face went stiff, following which she lowered her beautiful neck. So you really knew about it. But there's no way that a superior existence such as the Divine Martial Realm would truly attach importance to a mere lower star realm sect. The Flame God Realm is a top-notch existence even among middle star realms, so it's certainly unlikely that the Divine Martial Realm would offend the Flame God Realm for the sake of the Black Soul Divine Sect. Heh, Xianxia sneered, since a higher star realm wouldn't be willing to offend a middle star realm for a sect of lower star realm. Why would a middle star realm offend a higher star realm because of this lower star realm sect? Besides, the Flame God Realm has no personal grudges with these parties. Don't you think it's extremely ridiculous to ask for such a thing? Furthermore, if the Divine Martial Realm truly looked down on and disdained the Black Soul Divine Sect as you say, then why was the Black Feather Merchant Guild unable to gather enough power to try to struggle free during this entire period of 1,000 years? Ruyan bit down hard on her lip, with nothing to say in reply. For your own safety, you're dreaming of having the Flame God Realm take the great risk of clashing with and offending a higher star realm to help you. Why would you even expect that? How is it possible for things to so conveniently proceed according to your wish? HMPH, I must say you're quite pitiful, lamentable, as well as laughable, Xianxia said without showing any mercy. It wasn't that he doubted Ruyan's words. If the Black Feather Merchant Guild was being coerced this whole time, it would explain the many suspicions he had held in his heart before. But after his experience of these 2 days, he still felt some disgust towards the Black Feather Merchant Guild even at this time. Because Ruyan is truly at her wit's end, and there's no other way to save ourselves, Ruyan said in an imploring tone. 1,000 years ago, Wu Sanzun, the great realm king of the Divine Martial Realm, happened to come to the Darkia realm. He took a fancy to a woman called Lei Kuangfeng and took her back with him to the Divine Martial Realm as his concubine. This Lei Kuangfeng is none other than blood younger sister of the sect master of the Black Soul Divine Sect, Lei Kuangfeng. Using this connection, the Black Soul Divine Sect made full use of the name of the Divine Martial Realm. The great realm king of the Divine Martial Realm has countless concubines. As someone from a lower realm, Lei Kuangfeng had basically no standing over there. But a bit over 30 years ago, she gave birth to Wu Sanzun's son, who was named as Wu Gaik. Xianxia, Wu Gaik, a tortoise shell. Is he the child's stepfather, or what to give him such a SHTTY name? Since he was given birth by a concubine, he had a low standing among all the children of Wu Sanzun. But as he grew up, Wu Gaik displayed incomparably astonishing talent, and thus got attention and love from Wu Sanzun. His reputation gradually increased in the Divine Martial Sect, and even in the entire Divine Martial Realm. Relying on the noble position of her son, Lei Kuangfeng's standing also experienced a rapid increase in the Divine Martial Sect, reaching such heights that were completely different from the past. The Black Soul Divine Sect, where she originates from, also obtained even more power due to that, and consequently became further unbridled. If the Black Feather Merchant Guild doesn't get out of its control soon, we'll definitely fall into the abyss forever in the near future. As they say, when a man gets to the top, all his friends and relatives get there with him. The rise of a tortoise shell, oh no, the rise of Wu Gaik, helped the Black Soul Divine Sect to immediately change their situation from being barely using the name of the Divine Martial Realm as its backing to a sect with an incomparable solid relation with a higher star realm. After all, the Black Soul Divine Sect is the home of Wu Gaik's mother and Lei Kuangfeng. The sect master of the Black Soul Divine Sect is his own maternal uncle. It was already unimaginable for a lower star realm sect to have a higher star realm as its backing, to say nothing of the Black Soul Divine Sect itself being the ruling sect in the Darkia realm. No wonder that the Black Feather Merchant Guild was so anxious that it was looking for every possible to get out of their predicament. Sir, if you're willing to help the Black Feather Merchant Guild get out of the Black Soul Divine Sect's control, we'll agree to anything you want, no matter the conditions or price. Once we have achieved our desire, as long as we're not made to do dirty things again, the Black Feather Merchant Guild will be willing to work for you or the Flame God Realm for 100 or even 1,000 years. Ruyan said in a sorrowful voice, and her each and every word carried the sense of entreatment. Anyone would feel pity in their heart to see an enormous guild with a history of 50,000 years forced to such an extent. Xianxia's gaze moved downward from Jai Ruyan's face, and he slowly narrowed his eyes. "Will you truly agree to any condition?" Jai Ruyan's entire body went weak, and her face turned a bit pale as she sensed Xianxia's brazenly invading gaze on her. She bit hard on her lip and somehow forced out a reply in shaking voice. "So long as the Black Feather Merchant Guild is saved, even if Ruyan has to become a slave or a concubine. That does indeed sound good, but I can only feel pity." Xianxia shook his head with a regretful look on his face. "It's a pity that you have mistaken a lot of things. For instance, I am not from the Flame God realm, nor from a star realm higher than that. As for my relation with Sect Master Huo, I've only met him a few times. The reason he gave me the Black Feather Stone was just to return a favor to me. Thenceforth, no more grudge or favor exists between the two of us." Jai Ruyan raised her head, not knowing what to do. "You'd be greatly disappointed if I were to tell you about my origin. Not only am I not from a middle star realm, I also don't belong to even a lower star realm. I come from a mere bottom-level little planet that is located in the lower realm below the God realm. Let alone having a power behind me, I don't even have a companion. I showed no hesitation in spending so many profound stones because they were stolen by me from somewhere, and hence, it doesn't hurt me to spend them however I want. As for that person who was severely injured by me yesterday night, first of all, I didn't know about him at all. Secondly, since I'm all alone in the world, I don't have to worry about future troubles. I'll make things difficult for anyone who dares to provoke me, irrespective of their identity. Simple as that." Jai Ruyan slightly opened her lips but didn't say a thing for a very long while. "Therefore, it was nothing different from a gargantuan joke for you to come asking my help." Xianxia turned away. "This is the reality, and it's up to you to believe it or not. Considering that your Black Feather Merchant Guild is a victim too, and it also took the risk of hiding my real information from the Black Soul Divine Sect. I'll spare you and the people of the Black Feather Merchant Guild. But as for the Black Soul Divine Sect, I'll certainly make them pay a grievous price." With that, Xianxia flew up into the air, preparing to leave the place. "Wait a moment!" Jai Ruyan swiftly got up. Her figure flashed as she arrived right before Xianxia. "Sir, don't tell me that you want to go to the Black Soul Divine Sect." "Correct," Xianxia said in a cold voice. "I didn't leave the Darkia realm in order to deal with the Black Soul Divine Sect." "Don't do it," Jai Ruyan shook her head. "Sir Ling Yun, although your strength is extraordinary, if you're truly planning to go there all alone, I ask you to completely drop the idea of doing so. Black Soul Divine Sect is the ruling sect in the Darkia realm and an incomparably fearsome existence. It has 8 million disciples in total, and if we also include the number of disciples in its major branches that are located across the Darkia realm, they would add up to tens of millions. Sect Master Lei Kuangfeng is an unrivaled and powerful divine king, and the 64 Hall Masters are all fearsome people that are at the late stage of the divine tribulation realm. You, sir, are a very passionate and righteous person who Ruyan extremely admires, but you absolutely can't just straight away dive into the abyss and throw away your life because of a moment of anger." "HMPH?" Xianxia lightly gnashed his teeth. "It's naturally impossible for an insignificant person like me to be able to shake such an enormous ruling sect. But even if I have to put my life at risk, I'll make sure to dye the Black Soul Divine Sect with blood. It's for the debt owed by them. It's also for the debt I owe. The debt of blood must be repaid with blood." Jai Ruyan blankly looked at Xianxia. A profound practitioner of the divine soul realm, without any backing or even someone he could call his companion, actually wanted to proactively punish an enormous sect that ruled a star realm. It should feel absurd, laughable, and stupid to her, but the aura seething on Xianxia's body caused her to sense deep suffocation. To her surprise, she clearly felt that he wasn't talking nonsense or being impulsive. As the young head of the Black Feather Merchant Guild, she came into contact with far more people than an ordinary person. Despite that, it was her first time feeling so frightened by the domineering aura of a young man. "Sir Ling Yun," Jai Ruyan said sincerely, "I have a way to safely send you away from the Darkia realm. I can guarantee that you wouldn't be discovered by the—" "Not necessary." Xianxia decisively refused her and again prepared to leave. "Sir," Jai Ruyan promptly got in front of him, "if you're determined to go to the Black Soul Divine Sect, Ruyan is willing to help you." Xianxia revealed surprise. "You want to help me?" Jai Ruyan let out a faint sigh. "Since it's your first time to the Darkia realm and you knew nothing of the Black Soul Divine Sect until yesterday either, there should be very few things you understand about the Black Soul Divine Sect right now. You might not even know the location of the sect. Xianxia. In Ruyan's opinion, your intention to confront the Black Soul Divine Sect by yourself is no different from going to meet one's death. Ruyan can't provide much help, but at least in the Darkia realm, I am one of the most knowledgeable people about the Black Soul Divine Sect. Sometime later in the night, I'll send the information related to the Black Soul Divine Sect to your sound transmission Jade. I hope that, after knowing more about the sect, you reconsiders the decision to face it alone. You answer a question first, Xianxia said all of a sudden. At the trade fair last night, why did that person of the Black Soul Divine Sect suddenly cause trouble and tried to forcibly seize back the Wood Spirit? That's because of the Divine Martial Realm. Mentioning the distant, fearsome, and the far superior Divine Martial Realm, Ruyan found it difficult to maintain calmness in her eyes. Go on, Xianxia said. I myself came to know about the reason some time ago. Originally, when the people of the Black Soul Divine Sect ascertained that the little wood spirit that they had captured was the legendary royal wood spirit that had already become extinct, they immediately informed Lei Kuangfeng about it with sound transmission. Lei Kuangfeng was first happy to hear the good news, but soon fear took root in his heart. He didn't dare to use it for himself or even offer it to the Divine Martial Realm. Of course, he didn't dare to keep it for long and wanted to immediately deal with it via my Black Feather Merchant Guild. But who would have thought that the first half of the sound transmission was heard by Lei Kuangfeng's wife from far away? She didn't know about the value of a royal tribe wood spirit, and even more unfortunately, it was precisely Lei Kuangfeng's birthday. When Lei Kuangfeng's wife sent sound transmission to Lei Kuangfeng in the distant Divine Martial Realm, she casually mentioned this matter. That's roughly how the situation played out. It's easy to imagine the reaction of the Divine Martial Realm when they found out that the Black Soul Divine Sect had captured a royal wood spirit. But unexpectedly, by the time the Divine Martial Realm knew of the matter, that royal wood spirit was taken away by Sir Yun at the moment. The task of retrieving that royal wood spirit is being treated as a matter of prime importance by the Black Soul Divine Sect. If the Black Soul Divine Sect fails to succeed in the end, there's no doubt that the Divine Martial Sect will be furious. They might even send someone to personally come to the Darkia realm. They can forget about finding it now or ever. Xianxia slowly clenched his hands. As if I give a SHT about the Divine Martial Realm. Even if they were shielded by the Heavenly King himself, I'd still paint the whole Black Soul Divine Sect with blood. Just now you said that you have a way to send me out of the Darkia realm. In that case, do you have a way to send me to the Heavenly Mystery Realm? Xianxia asked. Heavenly Mystery Realm? Ruyan said in a surprised voice. Sir, could it be that you want to go there to seek some information or find something? If possible, can you tell Ruyan about it first? The strongest point of the Black Feather Merchant Guild is its information-gathering ability. Perhaps Ruyan might be able to help you in obtaining it without you having to leave for the distant Heavenly Mystery Realm. Xianxia slightly hesitated before saying, I want to find a divine 9-star Buddha Jade and an immortal Emperor Grass. A startled expression appeared on Ruyan's face, but the thing that Xianxia found unexpected was that she didn't outright say anything along the lines of, that's impossible, and instead gave an actual reply after remaining silent for a short while. Ruyan will try to find those two rare things, but the chance of really finding them is almost negligible. If I fail to get any results, it'd definitely be the best choice to go to the Heavenly Mystery Realm. However, since you are seeking such things, then you certainly need to return from the Black Soul Divine Sect alive. Ruyan still hopes that Sir can be more reasonable and understand when to back down. Is the Heavenly Mystery Realm truly such a mystical place? Xianxia wrinkled his brows. That old man had told him before that once he arrived at the Heavenly Mystery Realm, he would definitely not return disappointed as long as he had enough profound stones. The Heaven's mystery in the Heavenly Mystery Realm absolutely isn't an exaggeration, Ruyan said. It's also the Soul Star Realm that is particularly revered by all the King Realms. Don't tell me that its inhabitants can truly see through the mysteries of heaven. Xianxia slightly curled his lips. The several great predictions made in the history of the Heavenly Mystery Realm have all come true, Ruyan said. No matter the information you need, so long as it isn't anything that violates basic morals and ethics, and they're willing to provide the information, you will get an accurate and errorless result. No one has ever heard of them giving any information that is simply false or deviates from reality. Sir must know about the profound God convention that alarmed the entire God realm and is going to be held in 2 years. The heavenly mystery realm is the reason behind that, too. Xianxia was quite shocked. Because of the heavenly mystery realm, could it be due to some prediction made by the heavenly mystery realm? Exactly. Ruyan slowly nodded. According to what Ruyan knows, the heavenly mystery realm issued a prediction 10 years ago that there's an extremely high possibility of a great calamity befalling the eastern divine region, or even the entire God realm within 30 years. Furthermore, the calamity seems to bring along unprecedented destructiveness. The 4 great king realms started to make preparations early because of this prediction, and thus the grand event was planned to be held all of a sudden. Moreover, the mechanism of the profound God convention is going to be completely different from the past. The main objective of the event is to select 1,000 young practitioners with the best aptitude in the eastern divine region, and then use up all the energy of the eternal heaven pearl to help them grow rapidly, in order to deal with the great calamity that is likely to come in the future. Xianxia, however, said with an unchanged expression, "I have never believed in something like heaven's mystery. Furthermore, the prediction only mentioned a possibility. Frankly speaking, they are just deliberately mystifying things to leave a way out for themselves. Besides, I didn't get to hear about this prediction even when I was staying in a middle star realm, a higher level place than the Darkia realm. So how come you know about it?" The 2 words great calamity will definitely cause an enormous panic among people, and thus, it was necessary to keep the prediction a secret. However, this time's profound God convention is too unusual, and actually, every place has a guess that's not too far from the original prediction. Although the Black Feather Merchant Guild has meager power, our intelligence network is extremely vast. As we come into contact with so many people, the information-gathering ability of the Guild is likely even greater than what you might think. In addition, the theory of heaven's mystery sounds purely imaginary to anyone who hears of it, but once you go to the heavenly mystery realm, perhaps, it will change your point of view. Xianxia raised the corners of his brows and said with a nod, "All right then. I'll have to trouble you to use the information-gathering ability of your Black Feather Merchant Guild to help me look for a divine 9-star Buddha Jade and an immortal Emperor Grass. If you truly succeed in getting them, I'll certainly provide an appropriate reward in return. As for whether I can come back alive, you don't need to worry about it. Ruyan will give it her all." "About the reward," Ruyan shook her head. "No need for that. It'd be Ruyan's fortune to be of help." Xianxia raised his gaze a bit as he glanced at the figure of Ruyan once again. His tone had clearly become a little softer than before. "Miss Ruyan, you already know that I am from the lower realm, alone, and an insignificant person. Since I have no means to assist the Black Feather Merchant Guild, why do you still want to help me?" Ruyan revealed a shallow smile. "Because it's the Black Soul Divine Sect, the existence Ruyan hates the most, that Sir wants to deal with even at the risk of your life. Moreover, Ruyan also extremely admires your moral and righteous nature." "Moral? Righteous?" Xianxia laughed in self-derision before flying up into the air. "Like I said, I'm doing this because I owe a debt that I must return at any cost." By the time his voice faded away, Xianxia's figure had disappeared within the curtain of night. At the east of Darkia City, meandering mountains could be seen with no end in sight, even looking from high above in the sky. As far as it was possible for the eyes to see, the entire mountain range was surrounded with dark gray fog, which made it appear very eerie. The roars of beasts could be heard from distant places, causing people to walk timidly in fear. "The Black Soul Mountain Range?" Standing before the mountain range, Xianxia mumbled to himself. "Black Soul Divine Sect isn't that far from Darkia City. 1,500 kilometers to the east of Darkia City, there's a 1,000-kilometer-long mountain range, called the Black Soul Mountain Range. The location of the Black Soul Divine Sect is right beyond the mountain range. The Black Soul Mountain Range is an extremely dangerous place. Countless dangerous, profound beasts lurk around there, and especially, extremely dense gray fog spreads all over the mountain range from evening until the early morning of the next day. Even profound practitioners of the divine way would have their sights and spirit senses greatly restricted. The western part of the Black Soul Mountain Range is visited by a lot of profound practitioners throughout the year to train themselves or look for opportunities. However, all those who dare to enter this place are experts, without any exception, and ordinary profound practitioners would absolutely not dare to get closer to this mountain range. The eastern part belongs to the Black Soul Divine Sect. Once someone rashly enters in there and gets sensed by a disciple of the Black Soul Divine Sect, they would have an extremely tragic end. Hence, no one dares to approach the eastern part. Extreme care is required when traveling through the mountain range. This was the information given to him by Ruyan about the Black Soul mountain range. In the face of the enormous Black Soul Divine Sect, Xianxia was as negligible of an existence as a broken stone at the foot of a mountain. It was absolutely impossible for him to have a head-on clash with it. But he also had things that he could rely upon in such a situation. Black Soul Divine Sect, get ready to experience the fury of this insignificant person. Xianxia gnashed his teeth, as he said in a low voice. Xianxia descended from the sky and stepped into the Black Soul mountain range. Even though he held extreme hatred for the sect, he knew the difficulty and gravity of the thing he was planning to do and needed to be very careful in accomplishing his goal. A slight bit of carelessness could spell his doom. At least he now had a rough understanding of the surroundings, so he could use that knowledge to his advantage in a dangerous situation and escape. As it was daytime, no dense fog could be seen in the Black Soul mountain range, but right after stepping into the place, he could clearly sense an eerie feeling. Xianxia made his way straight to the depths of the mountain range. Here, profound practitioners with different auras and in various types of clothes could be seen everywhere. Just as Ruyan had said, the ones who dared to enter the Black Soul mountain range were anything but ordinary profound practitioners. None of the people Xianxia came across had a cultivation level lower than the Divine Soul realm. He would occasionally even meet experts of the Divine Tribulation realm. Furthermore, all these people had companions, and there were even those who had formed large groups. He didn't meet anyone who was all by themselves like he was. Although he was still in the peripheral region of the mountain range, the profound beasts that were wandering around were far more crowded together than the humans. Having obtained the royal wood spirit orb from Lin, Xianxia's sight, hearing, and sense of smell had all gotten much better than before. He could even clearly sense the breathing of the trees and plants. In addition, he could call out the names and characteristics of all the flowers, plants, and trees in his field of vision with incomparable accuracy, without failing to recognize a single thing. Evading the auras of the profound beasts, Xianxia looked over the surrounding landscape, while heading into the depths of the Black Soul mountain range at a steady pace. As he drew step by step nearer to the Black Soul Divine Sect, the look in his eyes also gradually turned gloomy and ruthless. All of a sudden, the corners of his brows raised slightly. Hiss! A black-striped snake abruptly shot out the crack in the withered tree on his right side. At the same time, another similar aura could be sensed from the left side, waiting to launch an attack at the right moment. Xianxia stretched out his hand with lightning speed and grabbed the black-striped snake at the weakest place on its body. A bit of profound energy was spat out, and its internal organs shattered from the shock in the same moment. The second black-striped snake pounced towards his neck like lightning. "Watch your back!" No sooner had the voice reached his ears than a jade sword came flying over at a very fast speed and stabbed through the black-striped snake in the air with incomparable preciseness. Afterwards, the sword beautifully turned around in the air and flew back, while emitting a chilly sword aura. Black blood spilled out of the black-striped snake that was now cut into two and instantly turned all the grass and trees that came into contact with it pitch black, which was a horrible sight to see. Xianxia, the one who had killed the snake, was a small and thin man in an ink-colored robe. Accompanying him was a big and tall man who was dressed in an identical robe, and a young lady who was clearly a lot younger than the other two. Judging from the aura, the small and thin man who saved him had a slightly higher cultivation level than him and should be at the 3rd level of the Divine Soul realm. The big and tall man was even stronger than him and must have already reached the 5th level of the Divine Soul realm. As for the woman, she was evidently being protected by the two men, and her profound power was only at the middle stage of the Divine Origin realm. The trio obviously belonged to the same sect, and from the looks of it, they should be mainly practicing the way of the sword. "Brother, are you all right?" As the three of them walked forward, the small and thin man said, "That was a black killer snake, a notorious creature in the Black Soul mountain range. Not only it is sly, it also often hunts with another of its kind. Furthermore, it has a highly toxic poison, which poses the true danger when someone runs into it." Xianxia nodded his head. He gave them a glance as he said with a slight laugh, "Thank you for the assistance." The big and tall man wrinkled his brows. It was obvious that he was quite displeased at Xianxia thanking them in such a manner. He said with a faint smile, "If my junior brother didn't help you out just now, you'd be dead at this moment, and even your corpse would have turned completely black. You'd better think of a way to repay us first." "Hee, brother, my senior brother is only joking with you." The small and thin man promptly smoothed things over. "Brother, why have you come alone to such a place? How about you travel with us? That way we can look after each other, after all. It's really too dangerous for a person to be all alone here." "Yeah, it'd be better to tag along with us," the woman also said immediately. Xianxia's appearance was extraordinary in the first place. Coupled with his domineering and indistinct noble aura, he evoked favorable feelings in a woman's heart with extreme ease. She said quite proudly, "I am Gu Xiaolian, and these are my great senior brother and third senior brother. Both of them are particularly powerful and very famous people, whose names you would definitely have heard." The big and tall man curled his lip, with a blatantly proud look on his face. "No need." Having finished his words, Xianxia didn't say anything more and directly turned around to leave. "Heh, this kid," the big and tall man coldly snorted in disdain. "Third senior brother, what is his cultivation level? Could it be that he is also at the Divine Soul Realm?" Gu Xiaolian asked curiously. The thin and short man replied, The second level of the Divine Soul Realm." "Oh, so powerful." Gu Xiaolian blinked her eyes. "Moreover, I feel that he should be almost the same age as me, or even younger." "How is that possible?" The big and tall man pursed his lips. "Even the Black Soul Divine Sect doesn't have anyone that has reached the Divine Soul Realm at around 30, so how could he attain such success? But if his age is under 60, then he would certainly be called a genius. It's a pity that he is an idiot who actually dared to come to the Black Soul mountain range alone. This might be his first time coming here, as he would absolutely not be alive to come here a second time." "Great senior brother," Gu Xiaolian jumped in fright and promptly said, "Don't say such things. He can hear us." "So what?" The great senior brother smiled coldly in disdain. "No matter whether he hears my words or not, I'd still call him an idiot." While they were talking, two burly men appeared in their line of sight who were dressed in similar black robes. Sensing the auras of the two black-robed men, both of them felt a shiver in their hearts. The cold smile on the big and tall man's face disappeared at once, too. The bodies of the two black-robed men were releasing auras of the late stage of the Divine Soul Realm. The two black-robed men also looked at them at the same time. Their pace immediately slowed down, after which the two men exchanged glances with each other and actually changed the direction they were heading in. They straightaway walked towards the trio, with their gazes fixed on Gu Xiaolian's body. When he sensed their gazes, the thin and short man said in a panicked voice, "They don't seem to have good intentions. Let's leave here quickly." "Hold it!" The moment they turned around, a thunderous voice resounded beside their ears, causing their entire bodies to tremble. They no longer dared to act rashly. The trio slowly turned around, and the small and thin man made his salutations. "This humble one is Luo Mu of the Jade Sword Sect. May I ask what advice the two seniors have for us?" "Jade Sword Sect. What the hell is that?" the black-robed person on the right asked. "Ha, like we give a SHT about it. Anyways, it's F-king nothing in the eyes of our Black Soul Divine Sect. We only care about fun stuff." The black-robed person on the left laughed wildly. Black Soul Divine Sect. These four words made the three people feel greatly shocked in their hearts. It was at this time that they finally caught sight of the black snake marks on their bodies. The big and tall man said in shaking voice, "So seniors are actually from the Black Soul Divine Sect. Do the two seniors have some instruction for us?" "Instruction? HMPH." The face of the black-robed man on the right turned dark all of a sudden. "You damn things sure have some big guts. You actually dared to trespass on the territory of our Black Soul Divine Sect. Could it be that you don't know that the entire Black Soul Mountain Range is the domain of our sect?" "About that," the thin and short man said in a flurry. "Junior absolutely wouldn't dare do such a thing. Just that as far as Junior knows, it's the eastern part of the Black Soul Mountain that belongs to Senior's esteemed sect, and not the western part." "Nonsense," the black-robed man said in an angry voice. "Since it is called Black Soul Mountain, it's naturally the possession of our Black Soul Divine Sect. Not only did you guys trespass on our territory, you even dare to quibble with us, huh? Well, let's forget it. Our Black Soul Divine Sect is the ruling sect in the Darkia realm after all, so it's expected for us to be magnanimous. We won't stoop to the level of you ignorant juniors." The trio felt joy in their hearts. They were just about to say their thanks when they saw that person pointing his finger towards Gu Xiaolian. He said with a repulsive and lewd smile on his face, "So long as we get to have some fun with this young girl, we'll let bygones be bygones and forgive your crime of trespassing on our territory. If we feel sufficiently pleased after having our fun, we might even give you a great reward, ha 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 ha." The expression of the two senior brothers abruptly changed, while Gu Xiaolian's face turned ghastly pale in an instant. She suddenly got behind the two and said in a scared and trembling voice, I don't want to." "Senior brother," the small and thin man clenched his hands. His whole body shivered as he used sound transmission while gritting his teeth. "Senior brother, they're going too far. Let's just face them with our all might." "No way. Do you want to die?" the big and tall man immediately replied. "They're from the Black Soul Divine Sect. That's the Black Soul Divine Sect, you know. Besides, those two have such a high profound strength, so there's no way they would have a low identity in the Black Soul Divine Sect. No matter what, we can't be impulsive." "Senior brother, save me," Gu Xiaolian said in an imploring tone. "Junior sister Xiaolian," the corners of the great senior brother's brows twitched. "They are seniors from the Black Soul Divine Sect, so we can only have you go through this suffering. Otherwise, all three of us will die." "Great, senior brother." Gu Xiaolian at once fell into a daze. Her face was as white as a sheet, unable to believe what she had just heard. "Ha ha ha ha, I guess you guys are sensible at least. Hurry up and get lost from here. Or is it that you also want to join in the fun?" No, we'll at once get lost from here, we'll get lost right away." Hearing the words, "get lost," the great senior brother not only didn't feel humiliated, they even sounded to be coming from heaven to him. He grabbed the small and thin man as he forcibly dragged him backwards to leave the place. Gu Xiaolian slowly sat paralyzed on the ground with a look of despair on her face. "Ha ha ha ha," the two black-robed men let out a wild laugh at the same time. Tusk, what a pair of wussies. We were thinking that they'd be able to entertain us some more." It was at this moment that an utterly emotionless and ice-cold voice resounded beside their ears all of a sudden. "You two are from the Black Soul Divine Sect." Busybody, without any hint or warning, this sound just materialized out of the blue, as if it came out from a spatial crack. Both black-robed soul sect members were shocked and hurriedly turned around. They saw Xianxia standing just 2 feet away, staring at them without any expression on his face. "Since you've served yourself up on a silver platter, I guess you're a hopeless fool," exclaimed the great senior brother who was frantically running away. After sensing Xianxia's profound strength, the second soul sect member's fear soon disappeared. "Right, it's your granddaddy from the soul sect. Did you want to come hug granddaddy's thigh? Arg!" Boom. It was a muffled bang, but even though muffled, the sound exploded straight through one's soul. Xianxia flashed like a ghostly shadow in front of the two of them and struck each of their chests with his hands. He released his profound energy instantaneously, and thereafter immediately retracted it before bringing both arms back to his sides. He turned around and within a few seconds disappeared from their sight. The duo's eyes protruded outwards. As Xianxia vanished, the both of them dropped like two lifeless wooden planks. No sounds, no convulsions. There was only blood that poured from all their orifices thanks to their already completely disintegrated internal organs. Gu Xiaolian's eyes were wide open, dazedly looking on, unable to fathom what had happened. Far off among the escapees, the two of them had also stopped for a moment. They were as stiff as stone statues, and their faces were like wax sheets, as if someone had stolen their souls. Xianxia continued heading east. After some distance, he rose into the air and started speeding up as he approached the middle of the mountain range. Just now, the actions of the two soul sect members were obviously clear. This added to that was the immense fear that the 3 Jade Sword sect members showed was enough to see what kind of sect the soul sect was. Be it in the God realm or the lower realms, as absolute powers, one must not only have enough strength and influence, it was more important that they have the hearts of the people as well. The 4 great sacred grounds of the profound sky continent, for example. The word, sacred ground, was a beautification meant to imprint worship in the hearts of people, and even the divine Ice Phoenix sect. The absolute power of the Snow Song realm would never bully or repress the innocents, but the Soul sect did otherwise. The reaction of the 3 members of the Jade Sword sect was quite telling of the Soul sect's vicious and malevolent standing in the Darkia realm. They did not even dare to retaliate one bit, showing the might of the Soul sect. Since the Soul sect had a backer in the Divine Martial realm, coupled with controlling the Black Feather Merchant Guild, They had a hold on the secrets of most of the large sects. The other large sects had no say in anything, and even if they wanted to get angry for any reason they couldn't, let alone take any action. Xianxia gradually sped up. His game plan against the Soul Sect was more or less shaping up. At this point in time, he spotted a small, colorful figure glistening in the corner of his eye. His gaze started following downward after the object, and after hesitating for quite a while, he finally started slowing down as well. It was a little girl that looked like she had just started stepping into adolescence. She looked to be around 12 or 13 years of age. If anyone had seen her, they would have never believed their eyes. She looked like an immaculate jade carving. Her eyebrows were perfectly shaped crescents, her eyes shone like the stars, her lips were luscious, and every inch of her resembled that of a stunning jade statue. Her build was small, and she wore a colorful skirt. The 7 colors on her skirt clashed with the gray and dark setting of this realm. As the mountain winds blew across, her skirt revealed a pair of white jade-like thighs. Her snowy white feet were fitted compactly into a pair of 7-colored glass-like shoes. The shoes were so colorful and beautiful Xianxia didn't know what material they were made from. Her profound aura was that of the Emperor Profound Realm. Considering her age, this was already quite an achievement. However, in this extremely dangerous realm, her profound strength could be considered to be so low it was pitiful. Furthermore, she was alone. It didn't seem like she had anyone accompanying her. At first glance, it wasn't clear what she was doing here, but she didn't look the least bit frightened. Those beautiful crescent eyebrows were gently arched, and the way she pursed her lips made her look both cute and playful. She was so beautiful that it'd be difficult for anyone to take their eyes off her. She pranced around this dangerous world, skipping step by step as she went, not a care in the world. She looked like she was enjoying the scenery. Her eye-catching colorful skirt fluttered in the wind, like a lovely butterfly fluttering in the air. Her smile was extremely cute, but it held a mysterious, bewitching charm within its depths. Xianxia's gaze trailed after the girl for a long time before suddenly regaining his clarity and moving his eyes off her. A girl at such a young age could incite such a strong reaction within him. This in itself was a terrifying thing. Wave after wave surged within Xianxia's heart. He would never have thought that there would be someone else besides Jasmine that would be able to give him such a feeling. Who would have thought that this world would have an existence similar Jasmine, similar to when he first met her, another girl who would have such an impact on his soul. Furthermore, this girl was younger than when he had first met Jasmine. Emperor Profound Realm strength. She had no one accompanying her. How did she even get to this place? All alone, if she met with any profound beasts, she'd be in definite danger. Worse, if she met any humans, they'd be far more dangerous than any profound beast could be. Thinking of all this, Xianxia shook his head. He decided to stop wasting time pondering about this girl and continue flying straight ahead. Only, at this time, he felt a large burst of profound aura coming from near the girl's position. A strong burst of someone in the early stage of the divine tribulation realm. It was a stocky, middle-aged man. He had a cold demeanor, and he had a somewhat suffocating aura. When Xianxia saw him, he couldn't help but look again towards that little girl. He frowned, starting to feel a little concerned. In such a lawless and evil land, should a normal man meet a lonesome and powerless young girl that was as beautiful as that? What would happen next was pretty obvious. Before dealing with the Soul Sect, he probably shouldn't be a busybody, Xianxia thought to himself. He turned away and started flying eastwards once more. In the Darkia realm, being able to reach the divine tribulation realm would mean that he was an important personage, and this middle-aged man looked like it. When he saw the girl in the colorful skirt, he reacted completely as Xianxia had expected. His eyes were transfixed, and he stopped breathing for a moment. He felt as if he were in a dream. In all his 1,000 years of life, he had never seen such a beautiful existence. Perhaps the girl didn't know how toppling her beauty was. She seemed to be unaware of all the possible dangers and immediately walked towards the middle-aged man. Her bright and shiny eyes held some doubt. "Uncle, why are you looking at me this way? Have we met before?" Her voice held a tinge of childlikeness, but what her voice contained was more that of an ethereal goddess speaking. Her voice seemed to excite the very depths of this man's soul. His gaze was completely fixed on her, and his body had started to heat up to a point where he had nearly lost control. With his level of cultivation and position, he already had countless wives and concubines, each of them spectacular. With his prior experiences, he shouldn't be so enamored with someone of the opposite sex. Furthermore, she was merely a child. However, she was causing every fiber of his being to burn with passion. He had never felt so impulsive in his entire life. He had an urge to forcefully rush forward and take her away, hide her and play with her incessantly. She was like a bright and shining star that had fallen into an ordinary, lifeless world. Even if he had to die 1,000 deaths to obtain her, it'd have been worth it. Although he wasn't thinking very clearly, this middle-aged man was still careful enough to sweep the area with his spirit sense. He confirmed that this girl was indeed alone. He gulped down a mouthful of saliva and started walking toward her, revealing a warm smile. "Little miss, why are you here alone? This is a very dangerous place. How about Uncle here protects you?" Seeing how he looked now, the little girl started to step backwards, replying in an alarmed voice, "But Uncle looks more like a bad guy." The middle-aged man's face twitched and transformed from wearing a warm smile to that of an evil and degenerate expression. He reached out with both hands trying to grab her with all 10 fingers. "I wasn't a bad person before, but today, I'll be a bad guy just this one time." This dazzling temptation before him had destroyed any righteousness he had held in his heart. He burned with lust as his voice trailed off. He pounced on her like a hungry wolf. "Ah, help, save me!" The Black Soul mountain range was filled with the sharp cries of the little girl. Bang! Just as the middle-aged man's body lunged forward, he suddenly rammed into an invisible wall of air. An extremely strong force threw him back, causing him to fall miserably. At a glance, standing behind the little girl was an expressionless young man. "Scram! The further the better." Xianxia's right hand stretched out his right palm, aiming at the middle-aged man's chest. "What the heck, why am I unable to deal with this hand?" Who are you?" The middle-aged man's face darkened at the appearance of Xianxia. Xianxia didn't reply to him directly and spoke with scorn. "With your cultivation, you should be someone great in the Darkia realm. Yet now you're trying to bully a little girl who's not more than a dozen years of age. If this news were to spread, I'm afraid your reputation would be completely wrecked. Move your ass and leave." Xianxia's words caused the man's pupils to shrink. His face revealed some shock, but it was immediately replaced with a venomous look. He laughed coldly. "Young man, well said, but if you die here, how will news of this ever spread?" He released his profound strength, and a strong wave of killing intent was locked onto Xianxia. "Brat, you don't know your limits, die?" Xianxia's face turned serious. The man was rushing toward him, and he immediately retrieved the Heaven-Smiting sword, holding it in his hand. The opponent was someone in the divine tribulation realm. Although he was in the early stage, Xianxia would have difficulty dealing with the threat if he didn't use the Heaven-Smiting sword. Furthermore, the little girl was too close to them. With her Emperor Profound Realm strength, she'd definitely die from the undulations of their clash. He had to end this battle as soon as possible. The heavy sword struck out, creating a giant force that defied common sense, which caused the middle-aged man's expression to change. He had only attacked with a portion of his profound strength. Boom! A thunderous roar erupted. The ground beneath both men's feet shattered, their forces unceasingly pushing against each other. The middle-aged man was extremely shocked that someone in the early stage of the divine soul realm could block a frontal attack from him. You actually, rumbling heaven?" Xianxia's strength immediately soared, causing more alarm to the middle-aged man. The man let out a despairing scream as he was sent flying like trees being torn apart by a hurricane. Xianxia turned, and the Heaven-Smiting sword was set aflame as the cries of both the Phoenix and Heavenly Wolf ravaged the air. Phoenix, Heavenly Wolf, slash! Boom! The flaming wolf silhouette pierced through the air, landing mercilessly on the middle-aged man's body. "Ah, ah, ah!" Miserable screams were yelled out. His entire flame-covered body was sent flying more than 10 kilometers away. His flying, flaming figure frightened countless profound beasts as they roared at the sight. It was unknown whether he was now dead or alive. His star god's broken shadow and prison god's serious tome came from Jasmine. He didn't dare to use the star god's broken shadow in the god realm, so of course he couldn't use the prison god's serious tome either. However, his amalgamation of the Phoenix Flames and the Heavenly Wolf slash, which was now the Phoenix Heavenly Wolf slash, wasn't counted as a forbidden move. Xianxia breathed a sigh of relief and put away the Heaven-Smiting sword. He turned around and saw the girl bounding toward him. Both her eyes were like miniature snowy stars gleaming at him. Her eyes and crescent-shaped brows caused the smile on her face to look extremely cute. "Wow, Big Brother is so powerful. Thank you for saving me. I was nearly scared to death just now." Xianxia blinked and slowly lowered his head. "But little sister, looking at you, it seems that you weren't the least bit scared, eh?" No way. The little girl rubbed her nose and then reached out both hands, tugging at her cheeks, laughing. However, I'm such a cute little loli. Even if I'm afraid, I shouldn't show it, otherwise I won't be cute anymore. Little, Lee. Where the hell did this little girl learn this word from? Looking at her expression, she wasn't the least bit afraid. Why are you here alone? Where are your companions or family? Xianxia asked while doing a visual sweep of the area, not daring to look the girl in the eye. I don't have any company and I secretly ran away to come out and play. No one at home knows. The girl stared intently at him, putting a playful yet princessy smile on her face. Alone, he raised his eyebrows. Even though this was still technically the outskirts of Black Soul Mountain, they were still close to 100 kilometers in. She was but a little girl in the Emperor Profound realm. She could safely arrive here in one piece. This defied common sense. It was basically impossible. Wait a minute, unless there's someone protecting her from the shadows. He couldn't detect the presence of anyone else. Perhaps it was because the protector was too powerful and completely beyond him, which was why he couldn't detect a presence. Thinking back to how the girl maintained her composure and noble air, coupled with the fact that she wasn't the least bit flustered, and was able to continue looking bright and pretty despite the situation, she definitely didn't have an ordinary background. Looking back, Xianxia realized that lending a hand to save her was perhaps superfluous. He was a busybody. Big brother, what's your name? The girl asked. Ling Yun, Xianxia casually replied. It was a false alias after all. If you're alone, this area is very dangerous. You should leave as soon as possible. After finishing what he said, he turned to leave. So it's big brother Ling Yun? Ah, wait. As she saw Xianxia about to leave, the girl shouted to stop him. Since this place is so dangerous, how about you protect me? Such a cute little girl, is taking the initiative to ask for your protection. You're really happy, right? I still have important matters to attend to. You should get home quick. Xianxia rose into the air and flew off into the distance within a blink of an eye. You, how can you be like this? You're not allowed to leave. The girl's angry voice trailed from behind. Xianxia ignored her, flying further and further when suddenly the girl's shouts turned into screams. Save me, quickly, save me, Xianxia casually gave a backward glance and suddenly felt over a dozen dangerous auras rushing towards the girl. It was profound beasts that were attracted by the commotion from earlier. Amidst this girl's shrill screams, the expert that Xianxia thought was hiding in the shadows didn't appear to deal with the danger of the profound beasts. Don't tell me, she's really alone. The situation was too urgent, and Xianxia couldn't debate about it any longer. He descended with lightning speed and consecutively executed the Moon Splitting Cascade, finally arriving and putting himself between the girl and a profound beast that was ready to strike with its claws outstretched. Ba-boom, the beast's right claws heavily struck Xianxia's chest, but it was instead flung backwards from the rebounding force. Xianxia swept his arm forward, lifting the ground around the beasts, and immediately sent 8 of them flying away. Ayo! The beasts behind started rushing toward the girl. The girl screamed once more, although it didn't really sound like a genuine scream of fear. Xianxia didn't have to turn around. His right arm lit up in flames and he channeled the energy backwards, but when he realized that the high temperature might also hurt the girl, the flames dissipated and a blue glow appeared instead. Ding! An ear-piercing sound rang out. 7 profound beasts in the back were sealed in ice and were then sent flying far, far away by a frosty wind. None of them made a peep. Ascertaining that the area was clear of danger, Xianxia lowered his hand and turned around. It's all right, there's no more danger. You're too cruel. You suddenly ran off by yourself, leaving me behind without a care. I was nearly eaten up by them. How are you going to compensate me? Huffed and puffed the little girl as she stared at him wide-eyed. Little miss, I was the one who saved you and I saved you twice. You not only didn't thank me, you're actually giving me a tongue lashing now, Xianxia replied dejectedly. Hey, you're a man, saving such a cute and lovable little loli is a given, she continued in a somewhat justified and righteous voice. Not only are you supposed to save me, seeing poor little me all alone by myself in this dangerous place, you should actually protect me. I'm so lovable, not even a hair on my head should come to any harm. And you dared to just leave me behind? I don't care. This is unforgivable. Admit you're wrong and protect me properly from now on. Xianxia's jaw dropped, so shell-shocked he couldn't even word a reply. This little girl, although she's very obviously a narcissist based on her character, she was most definitely brought up in a very coddled environment and had been spoiled to the point of being an unreasonable princess. I guess that should be the case. Seeing that Xianxia didn't reply, the girl gave a smug smile. Heh, no words to speak, right? Now that you know you're wrong, it's not too late. I'm magnanimous enough to forgive you. However, you must obediently protect me from now on. I must not meet any danger, or else you will be the most heinous man in the world. Xianxia took in a deep breath. Little miss, you want me to protect you? Won't you be afraid that I might turn out to be a bad person as well? The girl looked at him seriously, as if trying to drill into him with her glare. Even though you do look like a bad guy, you shouldn't be at bad, right? Xianxia's mouth twitched uncontrollably. Not at bad. Isn't that still a bad guy? Sigh, forget it. She's only a narcissistic little girl who doesn't know better. Since I've saved her twice, I might as well save her all the way. Xianxia stretched out his arm, a blue light flashed, and a 3-meter-long ice boat appeared in front the two of them. Xianxia floated onto the boat and said lifelessly, "Come up, I'll bring you to a safe place." "Oh, yes, yes, yes." The little girl eyed the ice boat and without any hesitation hopped onto it. She giggled, "Big brother, even though you don't look like a good guy, you're very powerful. Not only can you control fire, you can control ice as well. You're really powerful." Xianxia. The ice boat rose into the air and speedily headed out of Black Soul Mountain. "Little miss, are you really alone here?" Xianxia continued, looking out of the boat. "Of course, I'm such a cute loli, I would never lie," she replied meekly. "What's your name?" Xianxia casually asked. Although going into the mountain range was slow, he drove the ice boat with all his energy. Heading out was dozens of times faster than when he was traveling in. They would reach the outside of the mountain range in a short while. "Name, oh. Let me think." The little girl tilted her head to the side, her small hand resting on her chin. She started whispering a mnemonic under her breath: orange, apple, hawthorn, peach, papaya, lychee. Xianxia, big mushroom, little mushroom, ant, elephant, camellia, jasmine. Her eyes flickered, hand waving about, she excitedly shouted, "My name is Jasmine." At number %, Xianxia turned around and looked down at her. "Little miss, even if you want to lie, you shouldn't be so obvious." Why would I?" She blinked a few times before continuing seriously. "I took so much effort to come up with such a lovable name. I'm asking for your real name." Xianxia's voice rose a few decibels. "Furthermore, didn't you say that you're someone that wouldn't lie?" The little girl cringed and replied snarkily, "You obviously used a fake name and lied to me, and now you're turning around to accuse me. You're indeed an evil, bad man." Xianxia was rendered speechless. My goodness, how does she know I'm using a false name? Blind guess. How did you know my name was false?" His voice became softer, obviously carrying some guilt within. "I just know." Okay. I admit that the name I gave you was false. I admit that lying to you was wrong." Xianxia waved his hand. "So, can you please change to a different name?" "Why should I?" The girl tilted her head again, asking suspiciously. "Jasmine not only sounds great to the ear, it also suits my beautiful and lovable appearance. I love it very much. You can definitely come up with a better sounding name." Xianxia started to put in effort to help come up with some names. For example, you could call yourself Little Apple. "No way." The girl shook her head unhappily. "I'm obviously such a lovable little loli. I'm not as big and fat as an apple." "How about calling yourself Radish?" "That's even worse. When I grow up, I'll definitely be Buxom, who wants to be an ugly radish." Buxom. Xianxia was quickly going nuts. "Then you can just change your name to something else that you like. In short, you cannot call yourself Jasmine." "Why?" The girl eyed Xianxia suspiciously again. "Are you telling me that Big Brother doesn't like Jasmine?" "Of course not." The word Jasmine was firmly imprinted into his soul. He was about to instantly refute her, but he finally scratched his head and said, "All right, I'll be honest with you. I have someone very important to me. Her name is Jasmine. Except for her, I really don't want to call anyone else by this name. Furthermore, I don't want anyone just throwing around and using this name randomly." "Oh, so it's like this." The little girl seemed as if she finally understood. "It's really like this," Xianxia solemnly said. "Well, all right." She nodded. She looked deep in thought once more. "Then I'll just swap to another name." Xianxia breathed a silent breath of relief, happily thinking, "This girl might be self-obsessed and a little neurotic, but at least she's still a little bit reasonable." "All right, Big Brother, is that Jasmine older or younger than me?" she hurriedly asked. "Of course she's older," he replied. "Then it's decided." The girl's eyes shone once more. "My name shall be Little Jasmine." At number %, both of Xianxia's eyes twitched incessantly. "What the this? What how is this different?" "Of course it's different. Little Jasmine sounds even cuter." The girl giggled with glee, as though she was even more satisfied with the name Little Jasmine. Xianxia was completely speechless. Oh. Big brother, you mentioned that Jasmine is someone very, very important to you. Is she your mother? The little girl asked curiously. As she was now named Little Jasmine, she had a sudden interest in Xianxia's Jasmine. If Jasmine is your mother, then Little Jasmine is your little mother. Nope, it should be Little Aunt. Of course not, Xianxia nearly bellowed. What's up with that strange logic at the end? A very important person, If it's not mother, I know. She has to be Big Brother's wife, am I right? Xianxia was about to bellow and retort, but suddenly thought about the strange associations the girl was making. If he told her that Jasmine was his master, he wasn't sure what maniacal association she'd come up with. He straightened himself, put on a serious face, and nodded. That's right. Jasmine is my wife. Wow! The little girl reacted exaggeratedly as expected. Her perfectly crescent-shaped eyebrows danced and her eyes started to twinkle once more, like thousands of shining stars going off at once. So it's like this, Jasmine is Big Brother's wife, so little Jasmine should be Big Brother's little sister-in-law, Xianxia. Oh, so along these lines, Big Brother is my brother-in-law, Greetings, brother-in-law. Little Jasmine looked at him and gave an angelic smile. The words brother-in-law came out of her so naturally. Xianxia began to have difficulty breathing. How am I your brother-in-law? Why not? Little Jasmine stretched out her soft white hands and started calculating using her little fingers. Look here, brother-in-law. Big sister Jasmine is your wife, and I'm Little Jasmine. That means Big Sis Jasmine's little sister should be Little Jasmine, which makes me your little sister-in-law, which makes you my brother-in-law. This is absolutely logical. Logical, your sister. This little girl, was she a human or a demon? Her train of thought completely didn't belong to that of a human. As he was going nuts, Little Jasmine had completely assumed her role as his sister-in-law and started to exert her rights. It's only right that a brother-in-law protects his little sister-in-law. Now that you're my brother-in-law, you must take care of my safety, and you must obediently listen to me. You must especially not run away suddenly by yourself. You have to bring me wherever you go. And hold on, let me think. Xianxia, breathe, Xianxia, get a hold of yourself. She's a beautiful but obviously psychotic little girl. She just managed to somewhat coincidentally come up with Jasmine. As a name, you must not get close to her or indulge her any longer. Quickly send her out of the Black Soul Mountain range, and at the first possible chance, run far, far, far away from her. The ice boat flew through the sky as it left the bounds of the Black Soul Mountain range, before landing at a safe area 7 or 8 kilometers away. All right, it looks very safe here. Xianxia melted the ice boat and let out a long sigh of relief. Brother-in-law, where will we be going next to play? Little Jasmine raised her head to look at him. Her delicate and soft appearance, as well as the expression in her eyes, gave off the impression that she was facing her real brother-in-law. Oh, Xianxia pointed at her with his finger. You can go there or even over there. So long as you don't enter Black Soul Mountain again, you can play anywhere you want. Or you can return the same way you came. I'll be leaving first. You're not allowed to go? Even before Xianxia could turn around, the little hand of the girl had firmly grabbed onto the corner of his robe. She said angrily, Are you going to abandon me again? Don't tell me that you forgot about being my brother-in-law. A brother-in-law should protect his sister-in-law. No, it must be done. So you must closely follow after me at all times. You absolutely can't run away on your own. Otherwise, you'll be the most unforgivable person in the world. Xianxia mustered enough patience before saying earnestly, Little miss, I'll repeat myself. I'm not your brother-in-law, so don't just label me whatever you wish. But... Little Jasmine spread open her hand. As her extended fingers, she began to once again demonstrate the mystical calculation process to him. Jasmine is your wife, and Jasmine is my big sister. In that case, you're my brother-in-law, and I'm your sister-in-law. That's how it is, perfectly correct. The thing is, you and Jasmine aren't sisters in the first place, Xianxia shouted loudly. She is Jasmine, and I'm Little Jasmine, moreover, we're both girls. So Jasmine naturally is Little Jasmine's big sister, and Little Jasmine naturally is Jasmine's younger sister. The matter is so clear, and yet you want to contradict me. Hey, don't tell me that your wife is a boy. ... It's not gender issue. Xianxia had just calmed down his emotions, but they abruptly grew agitated again due to her carelessly uttered words. Little miss, do remember that I'm your savior. You shouldn't be acting so mischievously and willfully, got it? Ooh, brother-in-law is praising my cuteness? So annoying. As the cutest girl in the world, I won't feel any happiness even if brother-in-law praises me, haha. Little Jasmine covered her face with her hands as she said with some shyness. At number %, Xianxia felt a mouthful of blood gush out of his throat, which he swallowed back forcibly. Calm down, calm down, calm down. I am a super almighty being who possesses a max-level mouth cannon skill. Duke Hua and all his guards and family members in the Duke residence were so dejected and ashamed by my curses back then that they even wanted to commit suicide. How could it be difficult to deal with a little girl? His face swiftly returned to normal as he suddenly bent down and looked fixedly at little Jasmine. His face almost came into contact with her soft and tender face, and his slightly narrowed eyes radiated very dangerous rays. Okay, fine, sister-in-law, right? Since you're so certain that I'm your brother-in-law, then have you heard about it? Half of a sister-in-law's butt belongs to her brother-in-law, you know. Little Jasmine blinked her starry eyes. Then they widened all of a sudden as she let out a screech in a frighteningly high voice. Ah, you, scoundrel, pervert, lecher, someone quickly come. There's a great pervert here who wants to take advantage of his sister-in-law. Save me, woo. Xianxia moved forward like lightning as he put his palm on her lips, causing the latter part of her scream turn into whimper. Although he couldn't see anyone around, the screech of the little girl was simply too shockingly loud, which could easily reach as far as dozens of meters away. If someone were to get drawn over by it, even jumping into the Yellow River wouldn't wash away the dirt on him. Ha, wait a moment. What river is called Yellow River? Why did I feel like saying this name? Furthermore, why do her curse words sound so similar to Jasmine's? Don't shout. I was only joking with you. Fine, all right, I was wrong. I apologize to you, okay? Seeing Xianxia admitting his mistake and terrified, the little girl finally stopped struggling so much but still continued to look at him angrily with her wide-opened eyes. The instant Xianxia removed his hand, little Jasmine at once took 2 steps back vigilantly. Her face had turned slightly red as she said, fuming with anger, "Do you truly admit your mistake?" Yes, I was in the wrong." Xianxia stretched out his hand and placed it on his head. "What kind of sin did I commit to suffer like this?" HMPH? Little Jasmine pouted her lips and raised the tip of her nose. "Considering that you're my brother-in-law, I'll be magnanimous and forgive you this time, but don't expect me to do it ever again. I warn you, even though I'm only 17 years old. No, I mean, even though I'm a 13 years old lowly, it's not at all easy to bully me however you want, HMPH. Xianxia raised his head. "You are 17 years old. What are you talking about?" Little Jasmine's brows bent downwards. "I'm clearly such a small and cute 13-year-old lowly. How is it possible for me to be that old? Have brother-in-law's ears gone bad?" "You slipped it out yourself," Xianxia said. Little Jasmine brought her hand over her ear. "Brother-in-law, what did you say? The wind was too loud, so I didn't hear your words." "No matter how old you are, I don't have the time play with you." Xianxia was on the verge of erupting. He said fiercely, "Little lowly, do you know why I have come to this place? It's to kill people. Do you truly want to go with me?" He thought that she would absolutely be frightened. But the moment she heard him, little Jasmine's eyes started to shine with excitement. "To kill people? Great, that's really great. I want to go, I want to go. I won't be killing ordinary people." Xianxia pointed his finger ahead. "The Black Soul Divine Sect is right beyond this Black Soul Mountain. You do know the Black Soul Divine Sect, right? Black Dumpling Pyramid?" The little girl tilted her head sideways. She asked doubtfully, "Is it a yummy dumpling?" PFTT. Xianxia almost vomited blood. He roared, "I'm talking about the Black Soul Divine Sect, the most powerful, most cruel, and most fearsome sect in the Darkia realm. The people over there are 10,000 times more frightening than those bad guys and profound beasts that you came across before, especially when they see little girls like you. They immediately strip them naked and then, eat them up. Got it? Bad people like that exist. So detestable." Little Jasmine was immediately filled with indignation when she heard Xianxia's words. She tightened her little fists as she said, "Brother-in-law, I'll definitely go along with you and watch you beat down all those bad people. I'll also do my best to cheer brother-in-law on." At number percent, Xianxia suddenly felt the impulse to knock himself out with a slap. "Are you not afraid of being caught and then getting eaten by them after they strip you naked?" "Of course not." Let alone feeling afraid, little Jasmine said with her delicate face brimming with a smile. "Because brother-in-law will be protecting me." "Ha ha ha," Xianxia laughed dryly. "Black Soul Divine Sect is the most dangerous place in the Darkia realm." Little Jasmine slightly opened her lips, seemingly frightened at what she heard. But soon after, she knitted her brows all of a sudden and said furiously, "What's wrong with you? As the brother-in-law, you can't even protect your sister-in-law? How can you be so useless?" Xianxia. She moved her pitch-black eyes in a circular motion and suddenly thought of a critical issue. She asked immediately, Since you're doing dangerous things, why is Big Sister Jasmine not with you? I may be young, but even I know that a husband and wife should work together with one heart and share happiness and sorrows. Why are you here without Big Sister Jasmine? Ah, I got it. It's definitely because you're too useless and unable to protect Big Sister Jasmine that she isn't together with you. PFTT. The words said by little Jasmine unconsciously pierced into Xianxia's heart just like a knife. When I grow up and look for a man, I'll at the very least want him to be able to protect me. He won't let me bullied by anyone. I absolutely don't want to find a useless person like brother-in-law. If I were Big Sister Jasmine, I'd just leave you far, far away, so as to never see your face again, HMPH, HMPH. PFTT. The second knife pierced through his heart. Looking at the stiff and unsightly expression on Xianxia's face, little Jasmine's eyes glowed with more and more excitement. Hey, could it be that I guessed right? Wow. I'm really so wise, however, if that's truly the case, Big Sister Jasmine is so pitiful. Brother-in-law is not only useless, he even wants to abandon his sister-in-law. What an irresponsible person. If Big Sister Jasmine meets danger or gets bullied, brother-in-law will surely not give any care to it, and helping her out is further out of the question. She can only silently endure it and might even get constantly bullied to death. Ooh, Big Sister Jasmine is so pitiful. PFTT. The third knife, her words were as sharp as a knife hitting right where it hurt. Xianxia stretched out his hand as he put it on his chest that was dripping with blood. He said in a trembling voice, I have something to do, so I'll be going on ahead, you play on your own. With that, he didn't dare to wait for little Jasmine's response and flew straight up into the sky. He fled far away in such a manner as if he was running for his life. Wah, come back, you can't leave. You can't abandon me. You actually dared to abandon your sister-in-law without a care. I'll tell on you to Big Sister Jasmine. I really will tell Big Sister Jasmine about this. Little Jasmine's screams got more and more distant. Afterwards, it finally became peaceful. Phew! Xianxia let out an incomparably long breath before pressing his palm against his face. I was actually forced to the brink of breakdown by a little girl. It's the shame of a lifetime. Was that little girl sent by heaven to intentionally torture me? Returning to the Black Soul mountain range, Xianxia traveled at a lot faster speed this time. However, he didn't forget to observe and remember the mountain terrain below. Very soon, he had covered 500 kilometers, and the private mountain region that belonged to the Black Soul Divine Sect appeared right ahead of him. Xianxia slowed his pace as he descended from the sky and walked forward unhurriedly. The withered grass underneath his feet didn't make a sound, despite him walking on it. When he stepped into the eastern mountain region, his figure rapidly grew faint until it disappeared completely. In his hand was a small and exquisite butterfly-shaped short blade. The sound butterfly blade. Soul Sect, it's time for you to repay the debt, he muttered as his gaze turned gloomy and cold. The expression reflecting in his eyes was no less chilly than the bone-piercing cold gleam of the sound butterfly blade. The most fearsome enemy in the word was one that couldn't be seen. The first big gift he wanted to send the Black Soul Divine Sect was a soundless fear. Range was the territory of the Black Soul Divine Sect. Lei Kuangfeng was the Vice Hall Master of the 36th Hall. He was of a big and tall stature, and his face had a grave and stern expression. His eyes contained a mighty look in them as they stared fixedly at all the orderly disciples standing in front of him. Hall Master went over to Darkia City this morning in order to take care of some matter there. Therefore, I'll be supervising the assessment this time. Lei Kuangfeng swept his gaze over the disciples before he said in a heavy voice, You are the 100 most outstanding ones among the 30,000 disciples of the 36th Hall. The future of our 36th Hall, and even that of the whole Black Soul Divine Sect, rests upon your shoulders, and you should be proud of it. But only 20 people can participate in the sect-wide grand competition in 3 months. Today, the first assessment will be conducted. If you want to participate in the sect-wide grand competition, then you'd better show me your real abilities. There were 100 Black Soul Divine Sect disciples present before him. Moreover, it was obvious at a glance that they were disciples from the younger generation. Despite that, the aura of their profound strength was very astonishing. Nearly 60% of them were at the late stage of the Divine Origin realm, and the remaining 40% had already reached the Divine Soul realm. The strongest few were even close to the middle stages of the Divine Soul realm. Those who were able to attain such cultivation level, under 60 years of age, were absolutely considered impressive and superb geniuses in a lower star realm. They were the 100 most top-notch people, among the tens of thousands of disciples, in the 36th hall of the Black Soul Divine Sect. Even among the younger generation of the entire Darkia realm, they would all be deemed top-notch existences. The rules have been stated very clearly. You'll be only given 4 hours. Lei Kuangfeng raised 2 fingers. Within these 4 hours, you all must come back here, no matter the result. If you take more than that, even if the difference is as insignificant as a breath time, just directly get lost from the sect without coming back here. Is that clear? Yes, all the disciples answered uniformly. Good. The assessment starts now. All of you get going. Hearing Lei Kuangfeng's order, all the disciples quickly dispersed from the place. Their figures swiftly disappeared to every corner of the Black Soul mountain range, while Lei Kuangfeng stayed in place, with his eyes closed as he rested his mind. In a valley between 2 short mountains a short while later, a disciple of the Black Soul Divine Sect could be seen slowly walking forward. He was enormously proud of being a young disciple of the Divine Soul realm and hence also had the qualification to act on his own. He sensed the aura of a profound beast that wasn't too far away from him slowly drawing near, however. He was completely unaware that there was someone a bit more than 1.5 meters away that his spirit sense wasn't able to detect, that his eyes couldn't see. As he walked forward, that invisible figure quietly raised the blue, small, and exquisite short blade in its hand. Ding! Profound energy that was not at all strong and could even be rated as weak erupted from the figure, but it soon vanished in an instant before it could be sensed. The Black Soul Divine Sect disciple felt itchy at his neck all of a sudden, as if he was bitten by a mosquito. He subconsciously stretched out his hand to swat it, but the scene ahead reversed abruptly in the next instant. His head smoothly fell down from his neck, without giving him the time to show fear on his face, or even being able to cry out. Following the release of his profound energy, Xianxia's figure also appeared, and he quickly pointed backward with his finger. The still-standing corpse of the Black Soul Divine Sect disciple began to immediately get covered in a thin layer of ice. His entire body was completely frozen before the aura of his blood could spread out. Xianxia didn't even turn around his head to take a glance at him. He took 2 steps forward, and then his figure disappeared into thin air again. It was at this time that another figure of a Black Soul Divine Sect disciple appeared at the entrance of the valley. The instant he caught sight of the headless corpse, a frightened expression emerged on his face. He was about to run away on impulse, when a streak of cold light suddenly shot out from his right and pierced through his throat. In another direction, 4 disciples of the Black Soul Divine Sect were walking forth in a group. Xianxia hid himself on a mountain rock that was around 50 meters tall, as his indifferent gaze locked onto them. Using Moon Splitting Cascade along with the sound butterfly blade, he was confident that he would be absolutely able to assassinate anyone under the Divine Tribulation realm without making a sound or facing any danger. But in the case of having many assassination targets, it was required to instantly take down the other party before they could sense the killer's presence. Assassinating 2 people simultaneously was still all right, but it would be a bit troublesome against 3 people. Considering there were 4 people in the group, it would be a bit too difficult to assassinate them without letting others know of his presence. After all, they weren't ordinary disciples of the Black Soul Divine Sect. When the 4 people came within his line of sight, he didn't make any move. Instead, he undid the invisibility state, as scarlet-old flames ignited in his indifferent pupils. A formless soul power spread outwards and enclosed the surroundings. Illusory realm domain, red butterfly. The 4 disciples stopped in their tracks at the same time and their gazes gradually fixed ahead. In all of their eyes reflected the figure of a scarlet butterfly that was currently dancing in the air. "Do you see a butterfly that appears like fire?" one of the disciples asked. "Man, do you even need to ask the obvious? But it's my first time seeing such a butterfly. Could it be some kind of fire spirit?" Another disciple replied. He didn't sense anything odd looking at the scarlet butterfly dancing before his eyes. How is it possible for a fire spirit to be here? Oh, 1 more came now. Over 10 more fire spirits joined the other 2. This is so strange. Just where are they flying over from? While speaking, he was completely unaware of his eyes growing wider and wider and his voice becoming increasingly feeble. Seems like more and more, more and more, more and more, more. Within their line of sight, 1 fiery scarlet butterfly increased to 2 and then they again increased to more than 10, several hundred, several thousand, while they were in a daze until their entire field of vision and surroundings were filled with them. Eventually, they could see no scarlet butterflies in their line of sight, which was now solely occupied by an intensely burning flame. By the time the flame extinguished, the fires of their souls had thoroughly exhausted too. Bang! Like a pile of wooden logs that was blown down by the wind, the 4 disciples of the Black Soul Divine Sect fell down one after another in the short period of 2 breaths. The way they died looked exactly the same. They all had a dull expression on their faces and their eyes were opened wide, but they didn't have any luster in them and just appeared grayish white. Their bodies were still emitting the auras of their life force. Their blood was circulating as usual, and their hearts were beating at an even rate too. However, they would never be able to wake up again. Xianxia's figure also disappeared from the place at this time, as he approached the next target while invisible. Red Butterfly Domain was the power of the 8th stage of Golden Crow's record of the burning world. It was the second mental domain that Xianxia had come to possess after inheriting the Dragon Soul Domain. But the difference between them was that the Dragon Soul Domain had an incomparably tyrannical soul-terrifying effect. On the other hand, although the Red Butterfly Domain wasn't as overbearing as the Dragon Soul Domain, it had an even more cruel and ruthless effect, burning the soul to extermination. What was even more fearsome was the fact that it allowed the use of the power of the Golden Crow flame with the soul as a medium, which made it possible to use the power of the Golden Crow flame without releasing it outside the body. So long as one was able to control it well, they could employ the power against an opponent without letting the other party detect its emission. There was still nearly 2 hours before the assessment came to an end, but Lei Kuangfeng opened his eyes all of a sudden. He sensed something odd. The mountain region before his eyes was unusually silent. There were no shouts of the disciples nor roars of profound beasts, and even the wind blowing past his ears was incomparably clear. An indescribable sense of uneasiness abruptly awoke in his heart. He flew up into the sky as he swiftly unleashed his spirit sense, but failed to sense the aura of any disciple, even after a long time. The feeling of uneasiness in his heart grew bigger, and he promptly flew to the depths of the mountain range, with his gaze sweeping down. Finally, at some point in time later, he sensed auras of several living beings, but soon after his pupils shrank and he flew downward. There were bodies of 6 people lying dead, straight on the ground. Their eyes were wide open, but there were no pupils showing within them. Their breathing and auras were extremely frail, and there were no injuries or aura of blood present on their bodies. However, none of them budged an inch, as if they had lost their souls. What is going on here? Lei Kuangfeng was greatly shocked in his heart. Then he suddenly jumped to his feet, released his profound aura, and roared in a very loud voice. Who is it? Who has the guts to dare plot against my Black Soul Divine Sect? Show yourself! His roar reached far, far to the distant places in the mountain region, but there was no response at all to it. As the layer of ice melted, the originally sealed auras of blood also began to disperse into the air. Tracking down the auras, Lei Kuangfeng found corpses of the disciples one after another. The way all of them died was identical. They had been beheaded, and the places where their heads had separated from their bodies were so smooth, as if they had been deliberately polished. There were some heads with a terrified expression on them, and some of them even looked calm. Those disciples who still had their heads on had bulging eyes, without an exception. They did seem to have life force, but their consciousness had already turned into nothingness. Following the discovery of more and more dead disciples, Lei Kuangfeng gradually widened his eyes in fear. 6, 10, 30, 60, 100 in the end, he found the corpses of all the 100 disciples, none of whom was lucky enough to survive. To his surprise, he didn't sense any unusual sounds, movement, or aura this whole time, nor did he hear the sound transmission of any disciple. There was only one explanation to it. Whether the disciples were acting alone or in a group, all of them were killed in an instant, not even allowing them to make a sound. Otherwise, as long as someone let out a slightly loud scream, even if for half a breath, he would have been able to sense it. In comparison to being able to instantly kill them, the thing that was even more terrifying was the fact that to instantly kill a disciple of the Divine Soul Realm, even a practitioner of the Divine Tribulation Realm would need to employ at least 50% of their energy. He could have easily sensed such an amount of energy when he was himself not that far away from them, even if the other party restrained it right after the release. But he actually hadn't sensed a thing while the 100 disciples met with such sudden deaths. Such fear of the unknown made Lei Kuangfeng's scalp go numb. A chill frantically ran down his spine. Impossible. It was impossible for such a thing to happen. Don't tell me it's the work of some ghost, or spirit. Who is it? If you have the guts, get the hell out here now. How dare you provoke our Black Soul Divine Sect? Just you wait and see. Your 9 generations of relatives will be thoroughly exterminated by us. While crazily howling, Lei Kuangfeng quickly turned around in the air, looking in all directions. His howl did seem to have astonishing force, but he was trembling and frightened within. He could have dropped the matter if it concerned only ordinary young disciples of the Black Soul Divine Sect. But the 100 disciples who had met strange and sudden deaths were not only extraordinary disciples, they were also the most outstanding 100 disciples of the current generation in the 36th Hall. Their deaths were an incomparably enormous loss to the 36th Hall, as well as to the Black Soul Divine Sect. The most direct consequence of this incident would be seen in the sect-wide grand competition. Their 36th Hall would straightaway sink down to the bottom in the ranking, and the young generation of the Hall would not be able to show their faces to others. Feeling chilly and afraid in his heart, it didn't take that long for his imposing attitude to crumble. He randomly picked up the bodies of 2 disciples and quickly flew away in the direction of the sect headquarters. When he arrived at the previous location, he suddenly sensed a pretty strong smell of blood. At the place where he was waiting for 2 hours with closed eyes earlier, there were 2 phrases written in quite big and bloody letters at this time. The lives of 100,000 Black Soul Divine Sect disciples, to commemorate the souls of the wood spirits. Ling Yun. The aura of blood was permeating the air, clearly indicating that it was written just a while ago. However, whether it was earlier or right now, he hadn't sensed the existence of any aura. Lei Kuangfeng felt his body begin to shiver uncontrollably. He took out a profound imagery stone and imprinted the image of the bloody letters. No longer daring to let out shouts, he instead rushed to the sect in a desperate hurry. The beginning of Revenge Black Soul Divine Sect. Rushing crazily all the way back while carrying the corpses of the disciples, Lei Kuangfeng finally returned to the sect, seemingly yet not completely recovered from the fright. As a vice hall master of the Black Soul Divine Sect, he was quite a distinguished big shot, even in the Darkia realm, but it was his first time experiencing such a strange and terrifying thing. Just when he was about to dash straight to the chief hall, he caught sight of a person currently walking over to him and immediately increased his pace. The person was of a short and stout stature, but the look in his eyes was eerie and vicious. No expression could be seen on his face, but the coercion emitting from his body would make people's hearts palpitate in fear. With every step he took forward, an almost fearsome oppressive feeling would follow closely around him. It was the terrifying aura of the divine spirit realm. No matter where he went, all the guard disciples in the sect would immediately kneel down on one knee to kowtow to him. Lei Tiangang was the chief hall master of the 64 halls and cousin of sect master Lei Kuangfeng. His standing was equal to that of all the elders in the Black Soul Divine Sect, and the level of his profound strength had reached as high as the middle stages of the divine spirit realm. In the Darkia realm, he was a person of top-notch standing, who would make people change their expressions whenever his name was brought up in a conversation. Whether it was within or outside the sect, no one would dare to offend him. Chief Hall Master. Lei Kuangfeng quickly rushed over to Lei Tiangang. Seeing the corpses in Lei Kuangfeng's hands, Lei Tiangang asked with a frown, "What happened to them?" Chief Hall Master, this subordinate was supervising the assessment for disciple selection today, in place of the Hall Master at the Black Soul Mountain. But unexpectedly, all 100 of them met their deaths in the Black Soul Mountain. While answering, Lei Kuangfeng kept on wiping the cold sweat off his forehead. "What?" Lei Tiangang was greatly angered. "Someone actually dared to plot against the disciples of my Black Soul Divine Sect. Who did it?" "This subordinate has no idea," Lei Kuangfeng said. "When this subordinate discovered them, all of them were already dead. The whole incident happened within a period of 2 hours. This subordinate was not that far away from their locations, but was unable to sense any irregularity when was happening." "What did you say?" Lei Tiangang wrinkled his brows, but clearly didn't believe his words. Lei Kuangfeng put down the corpses in his hands. "Not only that, the way these disciples died is also extremely strange. Some of them were beheaded without any signs of having fought against the enemy, and even more disciples were turned into the living dead." Lei Tiangang crouched down as he stretched out his hand and placed it on the chest of a corpse. Soon after, a frown appeared on his face. Then he grabbed onto the top of his head and stayed that way for a very long while, before slowly standing up with a dark and uncertain expression. "Chief Hall Master, what exactly is the reason behind their deaths?" Lei Kuangfeng asked. Lei Tiangang had a gloomy and turbid look in her eyes as he inquired in a heavy voice, "How far was the location of the corpses of these disciples from you?" "Less than 25 kilometers at the most," Lei Kuangfeng replied. Considering the fact that the disciples were able to get only so far away, it was likely that all of them had in fact died within 15 minutes after the beginning of the assessment. HMPH. If you're speaking the truth, the enemy was able to kill all 100 disciples without alarming anyone, or being detected by you. Even though you were only a short distance away, it's something even I might not be able to do. Lei Kuangfeng was frightened in his heart. This subordinate would absolutely not dare to pull the wool over Chief Hall Master's eyes. "So I'd assume." Lei Tiangang still had a dark look on his face. "The way they met their death is even odder. There's no internal or external injury on their bodies, and even their life force still exists in their bodies, as if they died due to being put through a soul-searching art. This disciple is already at the divine soul realm, and hence, his soul origin is invulnerable to attack. Unless he himself abandoned all resistance, it would be impossible even for the sect master to be able to search his soul." Lei Kuangfeng's scalp went numb. Could it really be the work of some ghost or spirit? "What kind of nonsense is that?" Lei Tiangang angrily rebuked. He asked all of a sudden, "Did the other party really not leave any traces behind?" Lei Kuangfeng quickly took out the profound imagery stone and displayed the image that had been traced by it earlier. He must be the one who left behind these words. "The lives of 100,000 Black Soul Divine Sect disciples, to commemorate the souls of the wood spirits. Ling Yun." The expression on Lei Tiangang's face abruptly changed. He at once raised his head as he roared loudly, "Immediately send notifications to each hall to mobilize at least 5,000 disciples and have them promptly sent to conduct a search in the mountains. They must catch any living person they find over there. I give my permission to severely injure or cripple the targets, but they have to make sure to bring them alive." Lei Kuangfeng was startled. Although so many disciples of the Black Soul Divine Sect were assassinated, it would be a bit too exaggerated to perform such a large-scale search in the mountain. "Chief Hall Master, who exactly is this Ling Yun?" "Don't ask any questions," Lei Tiangang said in a heavy voice. "Do you know why the sect master personally traveled through the night to go to Darkia City all of a sudden? Who would have thought that he would actually take the initiative to come to us? The lives of 100,000 disciples of the Black Soul Divine Sect, huh? That's some truly frightening words, heh? What are you still doing here? Quickly go and do as I said. Remember, the captives must be alive when they're brought back to the sect." "Understood." Receiving the order from his superior, Lei Kuangfeng immediately left to carry out his task. Lei Tiangang took out a sound transmission jade as he said, "Sect Master, there's no need to go to Darkia City now. Ling Yun himself has come to us." Before long, clamor arose everywhere in the Black Soul Divine Sect. Several 100,000 disciples walked out of the sect in a line and rushed straight into the Black Soul mountain range. It was absolutely the first instance of dispatching close to 10% of the disciples in the entire sect at a time to search around in the mountain. Furthermore, it happened without any prior indication. The Black Soul mountain range was home to countless dangerous profound beasts. There were extremely few profound practitioners who would take the risk of entering there, to say nothing of heading into the depths. The eastern region of the mountain range belonged to the Black Soul Divine Sect. So unless one was tired of living, there wasn't any profound practitioner in the Darkia realm who would dare to approach the place, no matter how bold they were. Therefore, although the large-scale search continued from day to night, other than the numerous profound beasts that were alarmed by their movements, the disciples of the sect didn't find the figure of a single person. As the curtain of night fell, a thick layer of gray fog enveloped the entire mountain range. Having accomplished nothing, the search teams returned back to the sect one after another and reported the result to Lei Tiangang. "Chief Hall Master, we searched for a whole day, but let alone a person. We didn't even find a sign of an outsider appearing there." The person then glanced sideways at Lei Kuangfeng. "Lei Kuangfeng, did you really speak the truth?" "How could I dare joke about such a matter?" Lei Kuangfeng said in an angry voice. "Chief Hall Master, I believe that he must have fled away soon after he succeeded in his scheme. However, so long as he hasn't left the Darkia realm, he will definitely fall in our hands, sooner or later. Seems like he has really fled from the mountain range." I was wrong to be under the impression that he truly wants to take the lives of 100,000 of our disciples. Sect Master must be about to get here, so let's wait for him before further discussing this matter. Lei Kuangfeng swept his gaze over all the hall masters before saying suddenly, "Why is there one less of you? What about the one from the 11th hall? Chief Hall Master." The moment he finished his words, the sound of urgent footsteps came from outside. Very soon, a middle-aged man hurriedly dashed inside. He was one of the vice hall masters of the 11th hall, Lei Kuo. Looking at his appearance, a frown surfaced on the face of everyone present. Lei Kuangfeng asked in a heavy voice, "What happened now?" "Chief Hall Master, when this subordinate checked the number of disciples before leading them back to the sect, it was surprisingly discovered that 160 of them had disappeared. This subordinate then immediately ordered people to return to Black Soul Mountain, and came to know just a while ago that 70 corpses have been found so far. Moreover, the way they died is exactly like what Lei Kuangfeng said earlier. Those disciples whose bodies have yet to be discovered should have also met an identical cruel death." Chat? The atmosphere in the big hall changed abruptly. All the hall masters had shocked, as well as a bit frightened, looks on their faces. Not only several 100,000 disciples were part of the search team, nearly 200 vice hall masters and even hall masters were leading them, and yet they hadn't discovered any trace of the culprit. However, more than 100 disciples had died without anyone noticing. Furthermore, judging from Lei Kuo's reaction, it was clear that he hadn't sensed a thing when the disciples were killed by the enemy. A strong chill coursed through the bodies of all the people in the big hall. "What is going on?" Before the owner of the voice appeared himself, a dignified voice carrying a thunder-like coercion weighed down the hearts and souls of everyone present. At the entrance of the big hall, a black-robed, middle-aged man could be seen slowly walking over. There was a mark of a black snake with a wide-open, ferocious mouth, entwined with lightning, carved on his chest. Following behind him were 4 people who were dressed in similar black robes. Along with their arrival, the air currents in the entire great hall immediately congealed, bringing about an oppressive feeling like dark clouds covering the sky. The person leading the group was the sect master of Black Soul Divine Sect, the great realm king of the Darkia realm, and also the one standing at the zenith of the profound way in the Darkia realm, the one and only terrifying practitioner at the Divine King realm, Lei Kuangfeng, Sect Master. As soon as he arrived, everyone kneeled down in a hurry and deeply lowered their heads. Not even one dared to raise their head without permission. "Get up, Kuangfeng, just what is going on?" Lei Kuangfeng's gaze swept over the people in the hall as he asked indifferently. Lei Kuangfeng got up on his feet and quickly narrated everything that had happened that day. "Ling Yun?" Lei Kuangfeng slightly narrowed his eyes and raised his head a bit. "It's truly strange. Before my Black Soul Divine Sect could get the opportunity to settle old scores with him, he actually took the initiative to come and cause trouble for us, and even claimed to take the lives of 100,000 disciples of my sect. And it is for the wood spirits. It seems like this fellow is a madman. Sect Master, this Ling Yun is possibly not as simple as we think. The way those disciples died made me think of those devil people in the northern divine region. According to the rumors, those devil people stay hidden in darkness and steal people's souls without making a sound. Of course, they won't be leaving the northern divine region, so it's impossible for Ling Yun to be from there. It's just that the method he uses is quite similar," Lei Kuangfeng said. "Once we catch him, we'll naturally know the method he used," Lei Kuangfeng said in a stern voice. "It's obvious that Ling Yun is hiding in the Black Soul Mountain range. Tomorrow, mobilize all members of the 64 halls and conduct a search throughout the Black Soul Mountain range. Do whatever it requires. I need you to find him at any cost. Sect Master, who exactly is this Ling Yun?" A hall master couldn't help but ask eventually. "You don't need to know much about this matter. Just know that he has something that the Divine Martial Realm wants," Lei Kuangfeng said in a gloomy voice. Hearing the 3 words, Divine Martial Realm, everyone showed a surprised expression. "Moreover, it's something that he snatched from our hands." Lei Kuangfeng took a deep breath as his eyes glowed with a vicious light. "The Divine Martial Realm has given us a time limit of only a month. If we were to fail in retrieving that thing, we might have to face the consequences as the ones responsible for the loss. Keep in mind that you must catch him alive." Within the same night, the name Ling Yun was known by every member of the sect. After the first large-scale search, a search of an even greater scale was carried out the next day. Furthermore, the ones dispatched were all the members of the 64 halls. It had to be noted that the 64 halls were the topmost level establishments in the Black Soul Divine Sect. All the people felt that it was going too far to involve so many people just to find a single person, like a game of a cat catching a mouse. However, they had no idea that it was actually the beginning of a fearful nightmare. Similar to the first day, they searched all day long but didn't catch sight of anyone. As they gradually headed to the depths, they discovered corpses one after another that were all the disciples of the Black Soul Divine Sect. No one saw or knew how they died, nor did they sense any unusual aura or sound ahead of them, as if the dead disciples had their souls fly away and scatter all of a sudden. They found no clue by the end of the day and could only return with the bodies of the 200 soulless living dead. The same situation played out on the third day of the search. On the fourth day, Lei Kuangfeng personally headed to the Black Soul Mountain Range, leading all the Hall Masters. They stood high up in the sky and released their spirit sense downward to the limit. Several hours later, they got a sound transmission that made them almost vomit blood. Chief Hall Master, the disciples that stayed behind in the sect to guard the Back Mountain's secret realm were all found dead. The way they died is extremely similar to how the disciples in Black Soul Mountain lost their lives. It's very likely the work of Ling Yun. What? Back Mountain's secret realm? Lei Kuangfeng let out a very loud roar. Let's go. Ling Yun isn't here. Having failed to gain anything in the Black Soul Mountain range, they turned the region behind the mountain upside down to search for the target but still achieved nothing. However, they continuously received information that made their scalps go numb. Chief Hall Master, the 200 disciples coming back to the sect after performing their task in the Purple Sincerity region were killed on the way. Not a single one of them returned alive. Sect Master, the group of people that were going to Darkia City following your secret order have all ended up dead. Their corpses were found less than 150 kilometers away from the sect. Chief Hall Master, the 2nd and 7th sons of the 17th Hall Master, as well as the disciple guarding them, have died in the Black Soul River. It must have happened an hour ago. The disciples sent to transport purple lightning stones 6 hours ago haven't arrived yet, and there's no news from their side either. It's likely that they have already. Frightening information came in succession, causing the people of the sect tremble in fear. They would receive the information of the death or disappearance of disciples of the Black Soul Divine Sect each and every day. The deaths and disappearances would happen in different time periods and regions, but the thing that remained the same was that all the incidents happened in the vicinity of the Black Soul Divine Sect, and it was only the disciples of the sect that were disappearing. The victims would number from anywhere between a few to several hundred people. In the short period of half a month, Black Soul Divine Sect had lost several thousand disciples. If it was only the disciples losing their lives, the whole sect would definitely not be in such a panic. As the number of dead disciples increased by the day in this half a month, the Black Soul Divine Sect didn't spare any price and crazily searched for any clues to track Ling Yun. The sect was so zealous with the search that it seemed that they might mobilize all the 8 million disciples of the sect at any time. There wasn't a day when they didn't hear the news of the death of their disciples, which also implied that Ling Yun had never left the vicinity of the sect. But the Black Soul Divine Sect, the supreme authority in the Darkia realm and an incomparably enormous power, never even came into contact with as much as the shadow of Ling Yun, despite crazily looking for him in their own territory. The situation was so bad that nobody, from the Supreme Sect Master and Chief Hall Master at the top to the lowest-level disciples in the sect, even knew what target actually looked. The only thing that they were aware of was his name, Ling Yun. Such invisible fear was even more terrifying than the sight of a devil god. As the days passed, the fear also accumulated by the day. Eventually, the fear inside the people of the Black Soul Divine Sect grew to such an extent that no disciple would dare to step out of the sect casually. Anyone who had to leave the sect following the order of their superior would tremble in fear with every step they took outside of the sect. Their entire back would feel a chill, as if the eyes of a death god were silently staring at them. Half a month later, Black Soul Divine Sect finally passed down the most disgraceful prohibition order in its history. All the people of the sect with a cultivation level below the divine tribulation realm were prohibited from taking even half a step out of the sect without permission. A great amount of shocking rumors had gradually appeared in the Darkia realm as of late, and the news only spread wider and fiercer with each passing day. I heard that another couple thousand Soul Sect disciples have perished at Ling Yun's hands yesterday. It's only been slightly more than half a month, but Soul Sect has already lost at least 50 to 60,000 disciples already. Even better, Soul Sect wasn't able to harm even a hair on Ling Yun's head despite setting out to search for him en masse every day. I even heard that they have no idea what Ling Yun looks like to this day. What nonsense! Ling Yun has killed at least tens of thousands of Soul Sect disciples, okay. Just yesterday alone, they'd lost more than 50,000 disciples. Now that's what you call plains of corpses and rivers of blood. My mother's brother's eldest son is a Soul Sect disciple, and I had heard this directly from his mouth. Right now the name Ling Yun alone is enough to cause a Soul Sect disciple to shake in their boots. Say, who do you think Ling Yun is? It's almost like Soul Sect has provoked a living king of hell. Hey guys, listen to this latest news. Soul Sect has just put down a ban today, meaning that all disciples are forbidden from heading out and are required to stay inside the sect. It's totally real. I can't believe that the almighty Soul Sect is actually so scared that they withdrew into themselves like an actual tortoise. This is just too good. Nice wahahaha. SSH, keep your voice down. What if there's someone from Soul Sect nearby? They're so scared they're hiding in their nests, so what the FCK is there to be afraid of? To a Darkia Realm profound practitioner. Too good. Did not even begin to describe how pleasurable it was to hear that the infamous despot Soul Sect in the Darkia Realm had so many of their disciples slaughtered that they panicked and had no choice but to lay down a ban. At first, they only dared to discuss these incidents in secret. But as the discussion grew more heated and the news of Soul Sect's ban spread, the general atmosphere of the entire Darkia Realm rose to a strange, ardent level in merely a few days. It was almost as if they were celebrating the coming of a new year. Moreover, Ling Yun's name became so well known that even the old and the young knew about it. Black Soul Divine Sect. Bang! A stone table was crushed into bits as Lei Kuangfeng yelled with an expression as dark as the bottom of a pot. Who is the one who spread this news? This is unacceptable. It must be Ling Yun who did this. No. But Lei Tiangang shook his head. It's absolutely impossible for Ling Yun to move beyond 500 kilometers from this place, not to mention that there's no way he could have spread the rumors to this state in such a short time alone. He may have an accomplice, and this accomplice is a denizen of the Darkia Realm too. More accurately speaking, this news all seemed to have spread from Darkia City, so it is extremely likely that his accomplice is one of the powers in this place. They must be pretty big too. Your words make sense, Chief Hall Master, but I really can't imagine which sect or power is bold enough to commit such an offense. Save that useless crap for some other time, Lei Kuangfeng said angrily. Those filthy commoners will naturally shut their mouths once we catch Ling Yun. If he really does have an accomplice in the Darkia Realm, then we will make sure that they meet with a tragic end. You have half a month's time left. The glint in Lei Kuangfeng's eyes was shockingly ruthless. I don't care what methods you use, but you absolutely must find him before half a month is over. I will crush every bone in his body with my own hands and make him wish he was dead. Soul Sect's great elder Lei Kuangfeng said. Judging from Ling Yun's methods for the past few days, the disciples he chose to attack are all beneath Divine Tribulation Realm. The fact that he never dares to attack a Divine Tribulation Realm expert means that his profound strength probably isn't high. Moreover, he never kills more than 200 people in one go, but he never leaves behind any trace that may reveal him either. All these clues point towards him having low cultivation but a high level of stealth ability. Perhaps he may actually be able to hide his aura entirely. What is most shocking, however, is his mental strength. I've been flipping through some historical records as of late, and I found many records about people killing others invisibly through mental strength. However, most of these methods are not only very difficult to cultivate and incredibly risky, but are all true God inheritances from a middle star realm or upper star realm. For example, the Zen Awakening realm has the no-mind purification of murder mantra that can wipe out everyone's consciousness in a few breaths' time. The Flame God realm has a special domain that can merge fire and soul energy to create a large-scale attack that burn their enemies' souls to nothingness. And the Ice Soul absolute domain of Western Divine Region's Blue Dragon realm is even. I don't want to hear such useless things. Lei Kuangfeng cut him off roughly. Even if Ling Yun doesn't hail from the Pure Moon realm, there is still absolutely no way he comes from a middle star realm or upper star realm. He wouldn't need to act so sneakily otherwise. The only thing I want to know is how much longer will it take for you lot to capture him? Lei Kuangfeng said carefully. "Sect Master, I've already rearranged the 64 halls into 200 teams. Every team will be guarded by at least 2 Divine Tribulation Realm experts. When it is night, they will lay an ambush in some of the places Ling Yun is most likely to appear. They'll probably be able to produce some results." Lei Kuangfeng obviously sounded unsure when he said the final 2 lines. He hastily added, "Still, the best way is still finding Ling Yun's family or some sensitive information so we can force him out into the open. Pure Moon Realm isn't the Darkia Realm after all, and Pure Moon Realm is several times bigger than Darkia Realm. The people we sent out are working day and night to track down any information regarding Ling Yun. They may not have found anything yet, but I am sure that they will bring us good news in another few days. Please be at ease, Sect Master." That had better be the case. Lei Kuangfeng's every word was filled with a shocking amount of killing intent. Otherwise, if the Divine Martial Realm were to lay down their punishment and put me through a difficult time, then the rest of you will suffer alongside me. Black Soul Mountain Range. Lei Kuangfeng and Lei Qingli were the 2 great Vice Hall Masters of the 36th Hall of Soul Sect. Last night, they led 100 or so elite disciples of the 36th Hall to Black Soul Mountain beneath the cover of the night and thick fog under Lei Kuangfeng's orders. Then they spread out, hid themselves within clumps of dried underbrush, and hid their auras as much as they could. They were also given the strict order that no sounds were to be made. They waited for an entire night in darkness and silence. Although their ambush was more like praying that Ling Yun would somehow pass by their area, the fact was that they had failed to catch even a glimpse of his shadow despite being played for half a month straight, made them unable to think of a better idea than this one. As the day grew brighter and the gray fog started to fade away, they, as expected, had missed their quarry yet again. However, Lei Kuangfeng and Lei Qingli continued to crouch at their original spots until the sun was fully up and the gray fog had faded away completely before they finally sent a sound transmission to each other and jump up from the grass. "Assemble, return," Lei Kuangfeng let out a roar. However, the only thing that answered him was terrifying silence. He could sense every disciple's aura, but not a single person had answered his call. Lei Kuangfeng and Lei Qingli's expressions changed abruptly. Lei Kuangfeng hastily jumped into the air and pushed his palm downwards towards the ground. The underbrush within a radius of several kilometers was lifted to the air, and beside them the bodies of every disciple they brought with them as well. Thump, 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 thump. The Soul Sect disciples fell down like dumplings. Their eyes were round, utterly glassy, and looking pretty much like the dead. However, their auras were for some reason perfectly intact. Lei Fengquang and Lei Qingli fell into a daze at the same time. Although Lei Kuangfeng had had a similar experience beforehand, he still couldn't help but feel chilled all over. Meanwhile, this sight stunned Lei Qingli more than anything else in his life. He wouldn't be as shocked as today even if the number of deaths were to be multiplied another 10 times over. There can't actually be a ghost, can there? He was the Vice Hall Master of a hall in Soul Sect, and Lei Qingli actually found his voice shaking. It was at this moment a faint blood aura flew over from the front. When Lei Kuangfeng detected it, he strode over quickly and turned over a disciple's body. On the disciple's back, he saw a few lines of tiny, blood-written words. "Return and tell Lei Kuangfeng that he has 3 days' time to destroy his own cultivation and all 4 of his limbs. Otherwise, I will make sure that he wallows in regret for the rest of his life." Ling Yun. It really is Ling Yun. Lei Qingli still hasn't recovered from the great shock, but Lei Kuangfeng's face darkened. The blood hasn't completely dried yet, so he probably hasn't attacked long ago. This means that he hasn't gotten too far yet. Let us search for him quickly. The 2 Vice Hall Masters immediately rose to the air, spread out their spiritual perception, and looked everywhere. Everyone in Soul Sect was certain that Ling Yun must have an incredibly powerful aura concealment ability. Moreover, they believed that he was cunning and cautious. They thought that he wouldn't act unless he was absolutely certain of his own safety. Once he succeeded in his assassinations, he would immediately escape into the distance. But not even in their dreams would they believe that Yun Qi could not only hide his presence perfectly, but also turn invisible as well. Not only did Moon Splitting Cascade originate from the ancient Ice Phoenix, it was a divine way profound technique that was at a higher level than even the Ice Phoenix God investiture canon. It was a technique that only Mu Xuanian was able to cultivate to great perfection, much less be known to a profound practitioner of a lower star realm. At a distance, An invisible Xianxia cast a few glances at the two figures flying around in the sky like headless flies and let out a sneer. He steadily made his way towards west. The two great Vice Hall Master of Soul Sect had looked at and scanned his current location with their spiritual perception multiple times already, but they had never realized that he was there. After retreating to a safe distance, Xianxia increased his profound strength slightly and sped up. His figure appeared as a result. The first step is almost done. It's almost time to give Soul Sect their second great gift. Xianxia put his hand to his heart and said softly, "He Lin. I will make them pay 10,000 times the blood debt they owed to the wood spirit race." Just as he appeared and was about to speed away from the area, he suddenly detected a faint but familiar aura from the front. This aura, could it be? He moved swiftly forwards before casting a gaze down at a thicket beneath him. He immediately saw a petite figure dressed in an eye-catching, rainbow-colored long dress hopping her way towards him. It was none other than little Jasmine. Why was she here? It could have been a coincidence, but just as Xianxia's gaze settled completely on her, little Jasmine also happened to look up and notice him. Her eyes immediately lit up. Shit, Xianxia's heart jumped as he rushed towards her immediately. It was too late, however. An extremely melodious shout rang through the valley. "I'm over here, brother-in-law." Lei Kuangfeng and Lei Kingli might be very far away from this place, but their spiritual perceptions were fully extended right now. Little Jasmine's voice was as crisp as clashing crystals, so they probably would have caught her voice even if they weren't on high alert. Xianxia swooped down from the sky like an eagle, caught little Jasmine, and covered her lips firmly with his right hand. Instantly locking her aura with hidden flowing lightning, he flew away from the area swiftly while sticking close to the ground surface. He carried her soundlessly into a crack between two giant mountain rocks. "Stay silent," Xianxia said through gritted teeth while sealing off her movements with his profound energy to stop her from struggling. He continued to lock her aura with hidden flowing lightning and covered up her nose and mouth with his palm because he was worried. Little Jasmine couldn't move, much less utter a bit of noise. The only thing she could do was to stare at Xianxia with those innocent eyes of hers. As expected, Lei Kuangfeng and Lei Kingli soon arrived like two tornadoes as they landed accurately on the spot Xianxia and little Jasmine were at earlier. It sounded like a girl's voice. Why did she suddenly disappear? That girl was obviously shouting for someone. She has to be nearby. Let's find her immediately. Xianxia felt like he was encased in ice. He didn't dare to move even a muscle. With hidden flowing lightning and Moon Splitting Cascade, he was absolutely certain that he wouldn't be discovered even if the duo were to get within 30 meters of him. However, that only applied to him alone. Hidden flowing lightning might work on another person, but Moon Splitting Cascade absolutely couldn't. He didn't dare to say that hidden flowing lightning alone was enough to hide him, or rather, little Jasmine, from discovery when faced with two opponents who were of a far greater cultivation realm than he was. But his luck seemed to be holding up. Lei Kuangfeng went south and Lei Kuangfeng went west. They both gradually strayed away from where they were. Xianxia let out a secret sigh of relief before casting a glance at the round-eyed, pitiful-looking little Jasmine. He said in a soft voice, "Those two people are hunting after me. If they find us, we're both dead, do you understand? So don't talk or even breath loudly. If you understand, then blink your eyes once." Little Jasmine blinked strongly a couple of times in a row. It was only then Xianxia slowly moved his hands away while maintaining hidden flowing lightning. He was ready to take little Jasmine quietly away from this place. As expected, little Jasmine didn't say anything. She simply cast a aggrieved look at him, rubbed her little nose that looked like it was hurt because of Xianxia's rough handling, and "Hachu!" An extremely loud sneeze caused every hair on Xianxia's body to stand on their end. At number %. Without a second thought, Xianxia grabbed little Jasmine, detonated his profound energy, and flew towards the distance. At the same time, two powerful auras locked firmly onto his figure like soul-binding thunder ropes. Chi increased his speed to the limit as he dashed like a storm arrow. But the two auras behind that had locked onto him were on his tail, and one of them was even gradually drawing nearer. Wah, while Xianxia was gnashing his teeth, little Jasmine, on the other hand, shouted loudly, full of excitement. "Brother-in-law, hooray those two! Why are they chasing us?" "Shut up!" Xianxia roared in a low voice. Little Jasmine turned her head around as she called out to the people in the back. "You big bad guys, try to catch up to us if you can. My brother-in-law is Ling Yun, the most famous and powerful person in the Darkia realm right now. I don't fear you guys in the slightest." Xianxia felt an incomparably strong urge to throw her far, far away. Hearing the two words Ling Yun from Little Jasmine, Lei Kuangfeng and Lei Qingli's profound auras and speed once again gained an explosive increase. Lei Kuangfeng's profound strength was higher than Lei Qingli's. The speed of the latter was roughly the same as Xianxia, while the former was slowly getting closer and closer to his target. Seeing that his enemy was less than 1.5 kilometers away, Xianxia furrowed his brows. He flung out his arm, generating a gale that carried Little Jasmine far away into the distance, screaming. Then he stopped in his tracks all of a sudden, turned around and made his profound power surge fiercely from his entire body. Boom! Following the explosive sound of air resounding throughout the place like surging billows, Lei Kuangfeng arrived before Xianxia in the blink of an eye. Lei Qingli also caught up to him soon after that. The gazes and auras of the two were firmly locked onto Xianxia. "So you're Ling Yun?" While looking fixedly at Xianxia, they felt at least 60% doubtful about his identity in their hearts. To their surprise, the aura of Xianxia's profound strength was only at the early stage of the divine soul realm. Was it really this young man, who was only in the early stages of the divine soul realm, that forced our distinguished sect into such a difficult situation by causing the loss of so many lives? Furthermore, the speed he had displayed was also something that a person at the divine soul realm should not be able to achieve. "Heh," Xianxia sneered, "you could have just returned and reported to your sect master. Or are you so insistent on jumping out and seeking death?" Xianxia possessed an extremely strong fleeing ability. If he used his profound handle with hidden flowing lightning, there would be a very high possibility of interfering with the locking and pursuit functions of the auras of his enemies. With the aura separation ability of Moon Splitting Cascade, the success rate would at once go up by several times. Once he got himself free from the auras locked onto him, he could hide himself perfectly, which would make it extremely difficult to find him. It could be said that if he wanted to shake Lei Kuangfeng and Lei Qingli off, it would be quite a simple and easy task for him. But that was only possible if he was by himself. It was absolutely impossible to achieve the same result if he was carrying Little Jasmine along, unless he truly threw her away. Xianxia would definitely not hesitate in the least to protect those he considered important to him, even at the risk of his life. But he was certainly not a chivalrous person, either. To put it in other words, he wasn't someone who would foolishly face an enormous risk that could very likely endanger his life to save a person he had nothing at all to do with. He should have abandoned Little Jasmine straight away and then escaped at his top speed. But for some reason, such an idea didn't come to this mind, and he himself didn't know exactly why he not thought about it this whole time. Perhaps her forcibly calling herself Little Jasmine had imperceptibly affected some part of his mind. Him saying such words was no different from personally acknowledging his identity as Ling Yun. A look of anger surfaced on Lei Kuangfeng and Lei Qingli's faces, and their profound energy began to instantly seethe on their bodies. "So you really are Ling Yun. Very good, you have truly made us work hard to look for you. Let's see how you can escape from us this time. This guy is incomparably crafty. Instead of saying anything, we should catch him at once." Lei Kuangfeng let out an angry roar as streams of air wildly flowed around him. Lei Qingli also made his move right after him. The two people had launched a direct attack from both left and right sides. Xianxia frowned while several thoughts crossed his mind. He was currently facing two mighty Vice Hall Masters of the Black Soul Divine Sect. Lei Qingli was at the 4th level of the Divine Tribulation Realm, and Lei Kuangfeng the 5th level of the Divine Tribulation Realm. It would be barely possible to deal with one of them, so he would have no odds of winning if he were to face them head-on at the same time. He must carry out a surprise attack and dispose of one of them as quickly as possible. CLNK. Having come to a conclusion, he took out the heaven-smiting sword without delay. The abrupt leap in the force emitting from their opponent shocked Lei Kuangfeng and Lei Qingli. Although the force hadn't grown to a threatening extent, it should absolutely not be emitting from a profound practitioner in the early stage of the divine soul realm. Despite feeling alarmed in their hearts, there was no stagnation in their movements. On the contrary, they became even fiercer. Like ferocious snakes, two black streaks of lightning pounced towards Xianxia. However, the attacks were not meant to kill him, as Lei Tiangang and Lei Kuangfeng had repeatedly told them to capture him alive. Hiss, the two lightning snakes missed the target at the same time. When they collided with each other, the enormous energy of lightning blew open like cobweb in the air and instantly blotted out the sky. Xianxia had already arrived behind them in a flash. Before Lei Kuangfeng and Lei Qingli could turn around, a blue light immediately sparked in his eyes as he directly unleashed the dragon's soul domain. The image of a dragon appeared suddenly, and its roar shook the sky. Lei Kuangfeng and Lei Qingli felt their bodies tremble simultaneously, after which they fell into an abyss of fear. Their power and profound energy frantically discharged from their bodies in an instant. Boom! As he activated Rumbling Heaven, profound energy erupted from Xianxia and he charged ahead, as though he was a wild beast that had awakened all of a sudden. Within a moment, he didn't ponder over choosing a better target and simply smashed his sword at Lei Kuangfeng, who was a bit closer to him. Shivering in fear due to the effect of the dragon soul, Lei Kuangfeng felt a huge danger approaching him. He instinctively tried to defend himself, but could barely use 20% of his profound energy. He was halfway through raising his hands up, when Xianxia's all-out swing slammed ruthlessly into his head. Boom! As if a volcano had erupted in his head, a sky-shaking boom resounded throughout the place as Lei Kuangfeng was blown away. In an instant, his body got smashed into the ground dozens of kilometers from his previous location. It was unknown whether he was alive or dead. Kuangfeng? Lei Qingli was greatly shocked by the unforeseen turn of events. But right after he shouted, he discovered that Xianxia had already rushed over to him, carrying a berserk sword aura. Even though Lei Qingli's mind was in disorder due to the fright he had just received, he retreated backward like lightning and quickly took out his Black Soul spear. Having witnessed the fearsome scene from just now, he didn't dare to take his enemy lightly in the slightest. The black lightning on the Black Soul spear reached to its utmost strength in no time, and he directly aimed for Xianxia's chest amidst the deafening metallic sound. Following a swishing sound, the tip of the Black Soul spear rapidly increased by over 100 meters as it pierced through Xianxia's body. But the only thing left after was a shattered afterimage. Lei Qingli's reaction to it was incomparably fast, and there was no pause in his movements, even for a second. The lightning entwined around his Black Soul spear swept across behind him like a python using its tail. The superiority of a spear-type weapon was completely displayed at this moment. As the lightning swept across the place, the surrounding several hundred-kilometer area was shrouded by the image of a spear and the light of lightning. Clang! When spear and sword collided, the energy contained within the two broke out at the same time. Boom, boom! A huge sound was produced, quaking the earth and shaking the mountain. Xianxia was immediately blown away by the terrifying energy storm, while Lei Qingli's body shook intensely as it was forced straight into the ground. He somehow stabilized his posture, as a mouthful of blood almost gushed out. Why does he have such fearsome power? Lei Qingli was frightened in his heart, but before he could take a breather, he suddenly felt a dangerous aura pressing down on him. High above in the sky, Xianxia's entire body was burning with fire. He plunged downward, producing a long, air-tearing sound on the way, the image of the phoenix crimson and dazzling. Lei Qingli opened his eyes wide, completely unable to believe that Xianxia could counterattack so quickly while still in the air, and especially in a situation where he was blown away. As the image of the flame rapidly enlarged within his pupils, the feeling of his soul being suppressed grew even more terrifying. While lifting the Black Soul spear in his hands, the fear in his heart became even greater at a very fast rate. He actually avoided directly facing Xianxia's attack, and instead smashed the Black Soul spear fiercely onto the ground to utilize the impact to at once retreat as far away as possible. Boom! Over 10 short mountains in the vicinity were razed to the ground. Firelight soared into the sky, reaching such heights that it wasn't possible to see its end. The instant the flame exploded, Xianxia's figure shot out like a shooting star. He had no intention to give him the time to even breathe properly. The heaven-smiting sword launched forth an attack once again, as the image of Heavenly Wolf covered in phoenix flames rushed straight at Lei Qingli. Lei Qingli had yet to balance his body because he had evaded the previous attack in a flurry. But the image of the Heavenly Wolf had already arrived before him with a whistling sound. His eyes enlarged as he made his entire profound energy surge from his body and firmly resisted the image of the Heavenly Wolf with the Black Soul spear. Then, he let out a loud roar and somehow canceled the power of the Heavenly Wolf's slash. But when the image of the Heavenly Wolf dispersed, Xianxia came smashing down with his sword, like a shadow chasing after the soul. At the time he was drawing near to Lei Qingli, his eyes were shockingly scarlet in color. This guy, let alone being able to gasp for a breath, Lei Kingli didn't even have the time to ponder over anything. He let out a loud shout as if giving vent to his frustration and swiftly withstood the incoming attacks with his Black Soul spear. Boom! Boom! It was obvious that a heavy sword was the most difficult weapon to handle, but he was frantically launching attacks like a hurricane. Lei Kingli kept on retreating while resisting the attacks in a flustered manner. Every time he blocked the sword, it felt as if he was being struck by a mountain, causing all his internal organs to almost rupture due to being continuously shaken. Xianxia's eyes were crimson, and his arms were covered in blood, but the berserk force emitting from him and the power of his sword didn't show any signs of weakening, which made Lei Kingli feel more and more danger with every attack he warded off. His initial joy from finding Ling Yun had now turned to an increasingly deepening fear. But facing Xianxia's crazy attacks, it was impossible for Lei Kingli to even get away from the place at this time, much less initiating a counterattack. Xianxia was giving his all in every attack. His body was also getting hurt due to the shock with every swing of his word, but he couldn't take a break as it wasn't possible for him to maintain the rumbling heaven state for too long. More importantly, Lei Kuangfeng was a powerful, profound practitioner at the 5th level of the Divine Tribulation realm, after all. Although Xianxia did succeed in smashing his sword firmly into his head, it would at most injure him very severely and wouldn't cause him to lose his life. It would be for the best if he passed out. In case he didn't, even if he could only use half of his strength, the situation would get several times worse if he joined hands with Lei Kingli against him. Therefore, he had to finish Lei Kingli as fast as possible, even if it meant putting his life on the line. The longer he maintained the rumbling heaven state, the more burden it put on Xianxia's body. Lei Kingli was only defending and had no power to counterattack, but he still got covered with injuries due to his own energy. Lei Kingli's face became more and more pale as the fear within him grew stronger and stronger. Blood was flowing down from his arms that were holding the Black Soul spear, and they had begun to go numb. It was at this time that an agitated and angry roar came from the distance. "Ling Yun, I'm so going to kill you!" A human figure jumped high into the sky and, like a deranged wild beast, pounced over carrying along a soaring, murderous aura. Lei Kuangfeng? His mouth and face were completely covered in blood, and he seemed to be in an extremely sorry and miserable condition. However, on his body was his seething, quite chaotic, but still shocking, profound energy. A slight change appeared on Xianxia's face, and his movements also slowed down a bit. Lei Kingli, who was on the verge of collapse, didn't miss the opportunity and launched his counterattack at this moment. All his fear transformed into the catalyst to increase his ferocity by several times as his Black Soul spear suddenly shot out 6 black streaks of lightning. The incomparably terrifying auras shot straight towards Xianxia's chest. Almost at the same instant, Xianxia's heaven-smiting sword smashed down fiercely. He actually didn't attempt to dodge the 6 fatal streaks of lightning, and instead faced them head-on. It was obvious that forcibly doing so was very risky and dangerous. Lei Kingli's pupils shrank at his action, but they immediately turned ferocious. "Die!" Rip. As he got directly struck by the 6 black streaks of lightning, Xianxia bent the upper part of his body backward. 6 bloody holes tore open on his chest, but none of the streaks of lightning succeeded in piercing through his body. Seeing such a scene unfold before him, Lei Kingli's shrunken pupils enlarged once again, as he found himself unable to believe his own eyes. It was at this time that Xianxia's full-powered swing firmly hit his body. Boom! Wua! Lei Kingli let out a miserable shriek as his chest area ripped apart. He was blown away like a damaged blood bag and spattered blood on the way. It was as if heavy rain was suddenly pouring down. Lei Kuangfeng had arrived behind Xianxia by this time. The Black Soul spear in his hand had all his energy gathered on it. Xianxia suddenly turned around. Without bothering about the injuries all over his body or giving a glance to the blood flowing out of his body, he confronted Lei Kuangfeng head-on. When they were around 30 meters apart, the blue light that forced the latter into the abyss of fear earlier flashed in Xianxia's eyes once again. Dragon Soul Domain. It was his second time using the Dragon Soul Domain in such a short period of time, and hence, the frightening power of the second time was far inferior to the first. But Lei Kuangfeng's condition was also far worse than when he had experienced its effect the first time. When the sky-shaking roar resounded once more, Lei Kuangfeng's pupils discolored instantly, and his profound energy speedily dispersed like an unrestrained, powerful current of water. Xianxia increased his speed abruptly, and his sword came smashing down. Lei Kuangfeng raised his head with difficulty as a frightened roar escaped his mouth. He brought his black soul spear up in front of him while trembling in fear. But Xianxia's figure suddenly disappeared at this time. He appeared behind Lei Kuangfeng as though he had teleported and mercilessly struck the latter's head when he turned around. Clang! An almost ear-piercingly clear sound of bones breaking could be heard amidst the huge noise of collision. A booming sound came from Lei Kuangfeng's head, after which, his body spun in the reverse direction and fell head first onto the ground. At the place he fell, a pit dozens of meters deep and wide was smashed out. Xianxia, however, didn't show any signs of stopping even for a second. Carrying along his still berserk profound energy, he swiftly flew towards the back. Lei Qingli's whole body was dyed with blood after being severely injured by Xianxia's sword. He was struggling to turn his body over when he caught sight of Xianxia flying over, with that nightmarish, huge vermilion sword in his hand. "Ah!" Lei Qingli shouted loudly in fright. As his black soul spear had been smashed away earlier, he instinctively raised his arms to block the attack. PFTT boom. Blood spurted from Lei Qingli's mouth as well as his body at the same time. The heaven-smiting sword ruthlessly pierced through his hands and again penetrated his body. When the profound energy on the sword burst out, all his internal organs were destroyed into a broken mess. Lei Qingli's eyes popped out as the back of his head hit the ground. Afterwards, his body remained still without moving in the slightest. As he undid the rumbling heaven, Xianxia's profound energy suddenly lessened. His body swayed from side to side, and eventually, he had to get down on his knees. After breathing heavily over 10 times, he finally managed to slightly gather enough energy to seal the injuries throughout his body. The 6 bloody holes on his chest looked frightening, but the damage had barely reached bone. It was fortunate that he didn't have to worry about lightning itself, and it was simply the profound energy that hurt him. Otherwise, his current injuries would absolutely have been several times more severe. In comparison to his injuries or the consumption of his profound strength, the mental burden from using the dragon's soul domain twice, repeatedly, was a lot more serious. His head was feeling heavy, as if lead had been poured into it, and he was feeling an incomparably strong desire to fall into a heavy sleep. Having continued to gasp for breath for a good long while, Xianxia stood up and took out the heaven-smiting sword as he walked over to Lei Kuangfeng with swaying steps. At the center of the huge pit, Lei Kuangfeng was still lying in a pool of blood, several clearly visible cracks on the top of his head. His face was smeared in blood, and his eyes, in particular, were covered with a thick layer of blood. It should be impossible for him to see anything, but it was clear that he had still not lost consciousness. As if he had sensed Xianxia approaching, his body began to shake, and a feeble sound came from his mouth. He was already aware of the terrifying might of Xianxia's heavy sword after being hit on the head twice. Although he was still alive right now, he might not be able to survive the next attack. Xianxia didn't continue to attack and instead said while panting heavily, "Remember to pass my word to your sect master. Tell him I'll only give him 3 days' time. This is the sole opportunity I'll be bestowing him." With that, Xianxia didn't stay any longer. He froze the wounds on his body with a layer of ice to prevent leaving behind the aura of his blood that could be later used to track him down. Then, he channeled the last of his profound energy and swiftly flew away. Heading in the direction he had pushed little Jasmine away to, Xianxia quickly found her particularly conspicuous multicolored figure. Then, he picked her up before she could open her mouth and sped up as he flew to the western part of the Black Soul mountain range at an extremely fast speed. "Brother-in-law, where are those 2 bad guys? Don't tell me they were taken down by brother-in-law. Wow, brother-in-law is really powerful and not as useless as I thought." "Ah, brother-in-law, so much of your blood is flowing out. Does it not hurt? You look so gross." Brother-in-law, why don't you say anything? Hey, say something already. If you ignore me any longer, I'll get angry again. Last time you left me by myself, and I've yet to vent my anger at you for that." Xianxia didn't utter a word, and his face had on an unsightly expression too. Upon arriving at the western part of the Black Soul mountain range, he further continued to fly for a long while. When he finally arrived at an area where he could ensure his safety, Xianxia stopped in his tracks. Afterwards, he threw little Jasmine on the ground without the slightest show of gentleness. "Weua!" Little Jasmine groaned in pain before immediately jumping up to her feet. She was just about to express her anger when she caught sight of the very fearsome look in Xianxia's eyes. "You may not have asked for it, and it might as well be me meddling in other people's business. But that still doesn't change the fact that I did save you. So why do you want to harm me in return? Xianxia coldly asked with a dark face. Harm you? What are you talking about? When did I ever harm you? Little Jasmine put her hand at the place where she got hurt due to the fall. After intentionally hurting me by throwing me down, you're actually scolding me? Ooh, it hurts so much. Don't you try to act pitiful again. The look on Xianxia's face became even more terrifying. He turned over his hand as he raised a finger and said in a heavy voice, that place earlier was the territory of the Black Soul Divine Sect. During this period of time, they have laid countless profound formations and arranged a large number of ambush teams in order to catch me at all costs. Even I need to be very careful when I go in there. But not only did you appear all alone in the Black Soul Mountain range before, which in itself is extremely abnormal. This time you even crossed the western part of the mountain range, and also traveled as far as the depths of its eastern part completely safe and sound. Something like this is simply impossible with your ability. You either have someone secretly protecting you at all times, or you have some profound weapon on you that can deal with everything. Do you really take me for a fool? I don't want any explanation. Xianxia interrupted her words with a cold voice. I don't want to hear about your identity or background, nor am I interested in them. I'm even less inclined to know your relation with me. The only thing I know is that I saved you, but you purposely made noises to alarm those two people, causing me to almost lose my life. Do you understand how dangerous it was just now? Fortunately, there was no one else in the surroundings. If one more person had rushed over, I might have quite likely died there. Do you get it? Little Jasmine lightly blinked her eyes and said in a low voice, it wasn't on purpose. My nose was feeling itchy at the time. You say that I purposely did it, then why are you still helping me leave this place? Wouldn't it be much easier to escape by yourself? Xianxia stared blankly for a good long while before roaring, I'm helping you so that I can scold you. Do you understand? He turned away from her. It's just me meddling in other people's business once more. The next time we meet, I won't bother with you even if you are on the brink of death. You can also drop the idea of again getting the opportunity to have fun at my expense. With that, Xianxia flew up into the sky without any hesitation. Ah, you can't go. I still have things to say. Ah. Hey, Xianxia didn't pay any attention to her and flew far, far away in the blink of an eye. Oof, seriously, so fierce. Little Jasmine pursed her lips, but soon her eyes sparkled as her fine eyebrows cutely bent upwards. However, he sure looks amusing. Hee. While giggling, the multicolored robe of the girl had begun to flutter lightly in the wind. She was actually flying in the same direction as Xianxia. She headed west, straight away leaving the vicinity of the Black Soul Mountain range. Activating the Dragon Soul domain twice within such a short span of time had caused some backlash to his psyche. With the added injuries on him, he wouldn't be able to assassinate any more Soul Sect members in the next couple of days. The Soul Sect had also issued an order to seal the sect, which meant that he couldn't move against them for now either. Having arrived at a desolate region a few hundred kilometers away from the Black Soul Mountain range, Xianxia sat down. But instead of immediately meditating to recuperate, he took out his sound transmission jade. Miss Ruyan, could you do me another favor? Lei Kuangfeng should have many of his children in the branch sects. Could you help me confirm their movements and locations? Then tell me the location of those closest to me. Very soon Ruyan came back to him. The closest branch sect is the Darkia City branch. Lei Kuangfeng's youngest son, Lei Kuangmo, is one of the vice sect masters. Lei Kuangmo is Lei Kuangfeng's official wife's second son and is also his favorite. He has always been by his side until just last year when he was sent to the Darkia branch to gain more experience. Although he's the vice sect master in name, he's actually quite the good-for-nothing. A large portion of sect resources were spent on him before he barely stepped into the divine origin realm. He used to return to the main sect quite often, but during this period, because of what's been going on, he's been in Darkia City all this while and hasn't been back at all. Such a big matter has occurred in the main sect. The atmosphere in the Darkia branch has also grown more solemn, but Lei Kuangmo is still engaging in sensual pleasures. With Sir Ling Yun's ability, moving against him should be very easy. Xianxia had just merely asked using a single sentence, but Jai Ruyan's answer wasn't just speedy. It was also detailed beyond measure. Jai Ruyan's first impression of Xianxia was that he was mysterious, hot-tempered, and exceedingly strong. As for Xianxia, he was quite biased against her owing to her relationship with the Black Feather Merchant Guild. These days, however, Several secrets and information that ordinary people wouldn't know had found their ways into the ears of Ruyan, and Xianxia time and again witnessed the resourcefulness and information that Ruyan could provide. Add on the fact that they had a common enemy, a certain level of trust was slowly being built. All right, we'll start with him first. In 1 day's time I'll return to Darkia City. Help me keep track of Lei Kuangfeng's whereabouts, especially his nightly activities. Besides Lei Kuangfeng, there's an even more important matter. I'll need you to help me find the names of doctors in the lower and middle star realms. Those who are famous but whose whereabouts are unknown, particularly secretive doctors. The more secretive they are, the better. It'd be best if they're extremely famous wandering doctors yet rarely seen in public. Black Soul Divine Sect. Members of the Soul Sect had found Lei Kuangfeng. By the time they brought him back to the sect, he was on his last breaths. Kuangfeng, what exactly happened? Lei Kuangfeng grimly asked. Lei Kuangfeng was covered in blood and his voice was growing thin. It was Ling Yun. The moment this name was mentioned, everyone's expressions changed. He wants me to tell Sect Master. He wants Sect Master too. Within 3 days, to personally cripple your profound cultivation and limbs, if not. That bastard! Lei Kuangfeng flew into a rage. He had been the overlord of the entire Darkia realm for so many years, yet no one had ever threatened him like this. I will mince him into 1,000 pieces. Sect Master, you don't need to take to heart the ramblings of that little idiot. Kuangfeng, what level of cultivation is Ling Yun at? Did he really single-handedly kill Kingly and put you? Great Elder Lei Kuangfeng frowned and asked. Ling Yun's profound strength, 2nd level of the divine soul realm. Lei Kuangfeng's voice was weaker than ever. He spoke intermittently, but his words still left everyone stunned. The initial news we got from Darkia City also stated that he was in the early stages of the divine soul realm. But how is this possible? Everyone found this hard to believe. Ling Yun's profound strength, although strange, but in a frontal clash he shouldn't have been our match, but... As if he recalling an extremely frightening matter, Lei Kuangfeng's body couldn't help but shudder uncontrollably. His mental power is fearsome, really fearsome. You must be careful, Erg. Lei Kuangfeng went silent as his life finally left him. Sect Master, traces of Ling Yun almost immediately disappeared, leaving his whereabouts a mystery, but he left behind a lot of blood, which means that his injuries aren't light. If we do a blanket search, I'm sure we'll get results quick, Lei Tiangang remarked. You want me to cripple my own cultivation and limbs? Heh! Lei Kuangfeng gave a cold laugh. I want to see with my own eyes what you can do in 3 days' time. As his injuries stabilized, Xianxia returned to the exterior of the Darkia City. Just as he was about to enter the city, he received a sound transmission from Ruyan. Sir Ling Yun, I've just managed to consolidate the information you requested on the doctors. In total, I have the names of 7 doctors which best fit the requirements you listed. A large merchant company indeed, it wasn't just for show. Their information-gathering prowess was incomparable. Ruyan gave Xianxia all that they had gathered. The names, aliases, backgrounds, achievements, and recognizable features of the 7 doctors. Xianxia listened to her silently as she finally finished. He pondering for a moment before asking, the 4th person you mentioned, the one nicknamed Poison Saint Blackheart, is his ability to create antidotes strong. Based on the information, it's indeed so, Ruyan replied. Poison Saint Blackheart so far hasn't used his medical skills to save anyone, or at least never based on our information, but his ability to create poisons and antidotes is rumored to be unparalleled. Rumor has it that no matter how strong a poison is, he can cure it with a flip of his palm. The rumors even go as far as saying that there is no poison in all the realms that he cannot find the antidote to. As for the Blackheart portion of his name, this comes from him charging an exorbitant price when it comes to detoxifying poisons. If you cross him in any way making him unhappy, he won't hesitate to kill using poisons. His use of poisons to kill people far exceeds him curing poisons. An additional point is that when he gives an antidote, the other party must immediately consume it. This could probably be attributed to him not wanting the formula of the antidote being reverse-engineered. What does he look like? Xianxia mulled over the information and asked another question. Our information on his features is limited, but one recurring piece of information that keeps popping up when we researched him is that every time he appears, he's always seen wearing large overalls. He's not only tall, his upper body is considerably long as well. Another rumor is that owing to him being a practitioner of the poison arts, his face has been disfigured, and so seldom shows his true appearance to anyone. Poison Saint Blackheart started being famous around 3,000 years ago, but due to him making several enemies over time, he started to travel across the different larger star realms. Finding him is extremely difficult. The only recent information I have on him is a few decades old. In fact, on his birth star, rumor has it that he is already dead. Xianxia stopped for a moment to think and replied, Miss Ruyan, from tomorrow onwards start subtly spreading information that Poison Saint Blackheart has been sighted in the Darkia realm. Don't go about spreading it furiously, be as subtle as possible, and if it can directly reach the ears of the Soul Sect, that'd be even better. This, Ruyan couldn't help but have some misgivings, sir. What do you intend to do? Very simple. Xianxia didn't hesitate to give her his plan. I'm preparing to disguise myself as Poison Saint Blackheart and give Soul Sect a really big present. Ah! Ruyan couldn't help but exclaim in surprise after hearing what Xianxia had said. Sir, you definitely can't do this. Although there shouldn't have been anyone in the Soul Sect that has ever seen the Poison Saint, they're definitely not that easily hoodwinked. Their methods are sinister and they're thorough in how they do things. If not, my Black Feather Merchant Guild wouldn't be subject to their control. Moreover, the level of existence of such an individual as Poison Saint Blackheart is too difficult to pass off. Trying to pass off the ability of creating antidotes is as hard as crossing the heavens in one step. If you get unmasked, you'll be in great danger. Don't worry, I'm not taking them to be fools, Xianxia calmly replied. I definitely have my means to make them believe who I am, and not just believe, a belief beyond any shadow of a doubt. You're right, impersonating such a level of existence is difficult. However, if the impersonation is done well enough, similarly, it'll be difficult to disprove the identity. Ruyan was speechless for a while. She couldn't imagine how Xianxia would go about this impersonation, and furthermore how he could make them believe beyond any shadow of doubt. Your Black Feather Merchant Guild should regularly send men beyond the city to purchase items. Today you can send 3 men outside the city, anyone of your choosing, as long as they carry 5 million profound stones and you inform me of their route. This isn't a problem, but what are your intentions? Ruyan asked suspiciously. Xianxia replied, while on the way to their destination, they'll get bitten by the Black King Cobra. According to what I know, the Black King Cobra's venom has no antidote in all of the Darkia realm. As long as one is below the Divine Tribulation realm, they'll definitely die from the venom. The 3 of them will lie there dying from the poison, and just as they are on their last few breaths, and at their wits' end, they'll suddenly meet Poison Saint Blackheart. With all of the profound stones on them as the price, he'll detoxify the poison in them, and thereafter, the name of Poison Saint Blackheart will start to spread in the Darkia realm. All it takes is just a little push on your part. After finishing the sound transmission, Xianxia put away his transmission jade. He held up 2 ink black slithery bodies. They were snakes that were around a foot long. He had specially captured these snakes just as he was leaving the Black Soul mountain range. On his first day in the range, he had saved those men from the Jade Sword sect. They had yelled to him that once bitten, death was certain. It could be seen from this how deadly this poison was. Once I finish with this matter, it should be time to leave Darkia City, Xianxia muttered to himself. He raised his head and gently let out a sigh. Lin, the me right now is too weak. Even with all my effort, I can only accomplish this much. 2 years from now, if I'm lucky enough to enter the Eternal Heaven realm, I'll think of a way to meet members of the Eternal Heaven realm and inform them of what has happened to your wood spirit race. In time, hopefully I'll become strong enough that no one in this world will dare to bully the wood spirit race any longer. Xianxia took in a deep breath and calmed himself. His left hand reached out, and a reddish poison glow slowly appeared in the middle of his palm. Poison from the blood of the ancient horned dragon. He slowly applied layer after layer of the poison on the sound butterfly blade. After looking at it for a while, he released his profound energy dozens of times to dilute it before putting it away. As for what to do next, everything would go smoothly according to Xianxia's plan. As planned, the 3 men sent by Ruyan were bitten by the Black King Cobra as they were passing by the forest. Just as they were about to die, a man dressed completely in black and calling himself Poison Saint Blackheart appeared. His price for saving their lives was 5 million profound stones. They didn't believe him initially, but in their despair they no longer cared about the profound stones. After paying the price, they received 3 green-colored pills from that Poison Saint Blackheart. When they took them, the poison was immediately detoxified. The rumors of poison Dr. Blackheart appearing in the Darkia realm would then spread. Kuangfeng died at the hands of Ling Yun. The entire Soul sect went into action. They sealed all of Black Soul Mountain. Thinking that Ling Yun had suffered heavy injuries, they'd be able to have a good harvest this time round, but after a whole 3 days had passed, they had nothing to show for it. In the entire sect, except for those that were already dead, so far no one had even caught a glimpse of this Ling Yun. And in these 3 days, Ling Yun had never appeared again. Sect master, that Ling Yun must have already fled far away. Lei Kuangfeng bemoaned after another fruitless day. HMPH! Lei Kuangfeng's face was a picture of cold anger. Didn't he say that he wants me to cripple my cultivation and limbs, or else I'll regret it for the rest of my life? It's now the 3rd day. I really want to see what he can do to me. Just as he finished speaking, his sound transmission jade reacted with a vigorous burst of profound energy. He picked it up and heard a panicked voice coming from its sect master. No good, Ling Yun, he... What? Ling Yun? The transmission came from Lei Kun, the leader of the Soul Sect branch in Darkia City. His panicked voice signified that something big must have happened, and Lei Kuangfeng roared at the top of his lungs. Everyone was now stunned, wondering, while Lei Kuangfeng continued. Has Ling Yun gone to the Darkia branch? How many did he kill? No, the branch sect is fine. But, as the sect master of the branch sect, he was someone to be reckoned with in the entire Darkia realm, but as of this moment his voice was trembling. It's Guangmo. What? Lei Kuangfeng's pupils suddenly shrank. Guangmo, what happened to him? The area around Lei Kuangfeng was so silent that one could hear a pin drop. Once everyone heard the transmission, they all turned pale. Among Lei Kuangfeng's 7 sons, although Guangmo wasn't the most talented, he was one of only 2 sons with his official wife Xiao Qingtang. He was the youngest amongst all his children, and thus received exceptional care and love from both Kuangfeng and Qingtang. Even though he was spoiled until he had problems with his character, they still both loved him nonetheless. He left the sect for some matters and actually encountered Ling Yun on his way. He received a slash on his shoulder from Ling Yun's short sword. When we rushed to the scene, Ling Yun had already left. Hearing that it was only an injury on the shoulder, Lei Kuangfeng heaved a sigh of relief. However, he next found something amiss. If it was just a shoulder gash, Lei Kun wouldn't be so flustered. He sternly followed up. Is it just a knife wound? Guangmo should be fine. That sword had poison on it. When we rushed to the scene, the poison had already spread through Guangmo's entire body. What? Poison? Lei Kuangfeng had the shock of his life and bellowed. Why are you not getting him treated then? This subordinate has already tried his best, but the poison on Guangmo is extremely frightening. Even though every expert here has expended their energy. We even brought out the lightning spirit pellet, but Guangmo hasn't shown any signs of improvement. The poison is flaring up worse and worse. Lei Kuangfeng felt as if a cold bucket of ice was dumped on him. He winced. What poison did he get infected with? We've had all the best doctors in the city look at Guangmo, but none of them are able to recognize this poison. This subordinate is now carrying Guangmo with me. We're rushing to the main sect now and will be there within 2 hours. Bang! The sound transmission jade shattered in Lei Kuangfeng's hands. Both his arms were shaking and the veins on his forehead were bulging. Ling Yun actually went to Darkia City and attacked Guangmo. Chief Hall Master Lei Tiangeng shouted angrily. Guangmo's cultivation is shallow. With Ling Yun's ability, killing him isn't difficult, but he specifically chose to poison him. He must have planned this beforehand, Great Elder Lei Kuangfeng said solemnly. Gather all the doctors and physicians in the sect and get them to come to the main hall immediately, Lei Kuangfeng bellowed. And all profound pellets that are classified as antidotes, bring them all out now. 2 hours later, the Darkia branch sect's sect master appeared, speeding towards the main sect like lightning. Lei Guangmo's entire body was crimson, as if he was on fire. When he opened his eyes, even his pupils looked as if they were dyed red. His entire body was extremely weak. This poison he was afflicted with terrified everyone. Lei Guangmo's state gave everyone the shudders. Lei Kuangfeng didn't bother with words and sped to his son, channeling every ounce of divine king realm energy he had into Guangmo's body. As he did, his face turned gloomy. The poison in Guangmo's body seemed entirely foreign to him. It was one he had never seen before. The origin of this poison wasn't important, but the effects were extremely vicious. It was nothing like anything he had ever seen. Perhaps if he had known that the poison coursing through Lei Guangmo was actually from a divine master horned dragon, he would have chosen to immediately give up and not try any further means. In order to prevent Lei Kuangfeng from dying too quickly, he only used a tiny needle-point-sized drop of dragon poison, and he further diluted it by tens of times. Although it was a minuscule amount, that was still the poison from an ancient horned dragon. Even the divine sovereign realm's Mu Bingyun was helpless before it, let alone Lei Kuangfeng, who was in the divine origin realm. If Lei Kuangfeng himself was afflicted with this amount of the dragon poison, he would be able to easily expel it. But if he wanted to expel it from Lei Kuangfeng, it was wishful thinking. If he forcefully tried to expel the poison, before it could even be dealt with, Lei Kuangfeng might have already turned into ashes under the force of Lei Kuangfeng's profound strength. Kuangfeng, hurry, save Kuangfeng, you must save him. Qingtang was already tearing up as she saw the state Kuangfeng was in. As Lei Kuangfeng's official wife, Xiao Qingtang didn't have a normal background. Her profound strength was actually in the mid-stage of the divine tribulation realm. She was beautiful and had a natural-born elegance. Although she was nearing 1,000 years of age, her outward appearance was still that of a young maiden. Not only was she beautiful, she was also capable of handling sect affairs. Lei Kuangfeng's younger sister, Lei Kuangyu, who had married into the martial god realm, also really liked this sister-in-law very much. Even the firstborn of Lei Kuangyu, the backer of the entire soul sect, Wu Gaik, was also extremely respectful towards this aunt of his. Every time he visited the Darkia realm, he'd always bring a precious gift. Each time the gift would be even better than the previous one. And conversely, he was actually much colder to his uncle Lei Kuangfeng. This time, the news leak of the royal wood spirit was due to Xiao Qingtang leaking it to the divine martial realm. Although Lei Kuangfeng was furious, he didn't dare to scold her in any way. Lei Kuangfeng tried several times, and each time he'd purse his lips. Each of the sect's most precious antidotes were fed to Lei Kuangfeng one by one, however, they had no effect. Lei Kuangfeng's eyes and skin were flushing redder and redder, and as time went by, even his hair also started turning a deep shade of red. Layers and layers of crimson gas started to rise from his body, emitting a terrifying venomous aura. What poison is this? What kind of poison is this? Lei Kuangfeng's hands were cold and clammy. He lost control and roared. His palms were firmly pressed against Lei Kuangfeng's chest. The only thing he could do now was to use his profound energy to suppress the symptoms, and he was barely suppressing them. This old one has seen tens of thousands of different kinds of poison in his life, but this poison is something I've never seen before. Although the amount was minuscule, the effects are so horrifying. In my opinion, no other poison can compare to this. The Soul Sect's head Dr. Lei Dayan shook his head. Based on my judgment, this is a flame-based venom, and its rank is incredibly high. It's highly possible that it came from an extremely powerful flame attribute profound beast. Then, is there any method to detoxify this? Tell me, hurry up and tell me, Lei Kuangfeng wailed. Lei Dayan stiffened and stepped back. This old one is incompetent. Trash! Boom! Lei Kuangfeng roared explosively. The jade stones beneath his feet cracked and splintered apart. Royal father! Lei Kuangfeng suddenly whispered weakly in a weak and miserable voice. Lei Kuangfeng hurriedly rushed towards him. More, you, rest assured. Father is the realm king of the Darkia realm. What threat does a mere poison pose to me? Father will make sure that you will get well. Royal father, Ling Yun, he said. Lei Kuangfeng slowly widened his lips and continued. This is a poison that doesn't have an antidote. He wants you to watch me die before your helpless eyes. This is because you massacred the wood spirit race. This is your doing and retribution. Lei Kuangfeng trembled, his profound energy starting to become unstable. Ling Yun, Royal Father, you definitely have a way. Save me, please. More, you will definitely be fine, you will. Xiao Qingtang wanted to be near him, but didn't dare to. She was already wailing loudly by the side. She turned her head and screamed at Lei Kuangfeng. Lei Kuangfeng! All these years I've told you so many times that the Soul Sect is already so strong and deeply rooted in the Darkia realm. We're unshakable. Our dastardly and evil ways no longer needed to continue, but you continually refuse to heed me. Now this is our retribution, and this retribution has hung itself upon our son's head. If anything happens to Moore, I will never forgive you in this life. Lei Kuangfeng's scalp tingled as he retorted angrily, You dare criticize me. If not for you leaking that matter to the divine martial realm, how would this terrible thing have happened? Sect master, sect mistress, please calm down. Your subordinate has suddenly thought of a person. Perhaps he can save Kuangfeng. Darkia branch sect master Lei Kun hurriedly said. Who? Lei Kuangfeng turned around. Quick, tell me. Lei Kun hurried replied. Your subordinate suddenly recalled that a few days ago, the Black Feather Merchant Guild had a rumor circulating within it that a certain Poison Saint Blackheart has appeared in the Darkia realm and is most likely already inside the Darkia city. The rumor states that Poison Saint Blackheart's ability to detoxify poisons is unparalleled under the heavens, that there isn't a poison under the sky that he cannot get rid of. If it's really him, perhaps, no, definitely, he definitely can save Guangmo. Poison Saint Blackheart. The Soul Sect's head doctor revealed a surprised expression. As someone in the medical arts, he would definitely recognize this name. He really came to the Darkia realm. Are you speaking the truth? Lei Kuangfeng asked panikedly. Lei Kun continued. When this subordinate heard the rumor, I didn't really believe it, but the news didn't come just from anywhere. It came directly from the Black Feather Merchants Guild. The guild had 3 men on a mission who were poisoned by the Black King Cobra. They coincidentally crossed paths with Dr. Blackheart, who gave them 1 pill each, and the poison of the Black King Cobra in them was detoxified within 10 breaths. The Black Feather Merchant Guild also specially investigated that matter. This subordinate casually asked Ruyan whether the rumors were real, and she replied that it was real, and that person was most likely poisoned Dr. Blackheart. Since the news came directly from the Black Feather Merchant Guild, and none other than the mistress of the guild herself, it's definitely very possible. Lei Tiangang replied, and it said that poisoned Dr. Blackheart has many enemies, so he travels across several large star realms, appearing at random in different places. No one would ever dare to impersonate someone with a large number of enemies. They'd only be digging their own graves if they did. Who cares about real or fake? Xiao Qingtang shouted. If he's real, then no matter how black-hearted he is, as long as he can save more, we can pay the price. If he's a fake, then what about it? Do we have any other solutions? Lei Kun, Lei Kuangfeng shouted. Send a sound transmission to the Black Feather Merchant Guild. Ask them to find out the location of the Poison Saint in the shortest time possible. Once found, get the branch sect members to immediately bring him to the main sect. I don't care if he's real or fake, go now. Guild's ability to gather information wasn't just for show. In a few hours, the Soul Sect had received a reply. They had found the location of Poison Saint Blackheart. As they had initially guessed, he was inside Darkia City. The Darkia branch sect sent people to the location at top speed. However, the reply the main sect got after caused Lei Kuangfeng to erupt in rage. According to the Black Feather Merchant Guild's report, our branch sect members did find that person, and that person also personally admitted to being Poison Saint Blackheart, but he rejected the offer to come. Lei Kun, who received that transmission, reported the news with unease. Rejected? Lei Kuangfeng frowned. He obviously doesn't have the guts to come. He's indeed a fake. How can there be such a coincidence in this world? No, he didn't say he wouldn't come, he said. What did he say? Give me the full message. Yes, Lei Kun gnashed his teeth. In response to our disciples who invited him, he said that our soul sect wasn't anything big. If we want him to treat the poison, we need to have sect master personally bring the patient, along with a sufficient large amount of profound stones and crystals to him. Bastard! Lei Kuangfeng already had a stomach full of rage when he heard these words. It was as if his lungs would explode. An impersonator actually dares to slight my soul sect. Once he cures more, I will personally kill him. Sect master? Lei Dian hurriedly interjected. What Chief Hall Master said earlier wasn't wrong. The Poison Saint has countless foes. No one would ever dare to impersonate him. Although this old one has never seen Poison Saint Blackheart, I've heard of his extremely strange personality. Blackheart is extremely arrogant. Several powers of the Middle Star Realms have made many requests of him. Him looking down on our sect, which is located in a lower star realm, is actually quite normal. Bullshit, Lei Kuangfeng yelled. My soul sect is not some ordinary sect. Furthermore, I have the backing of the Divine Martial Realm. Just a mere poison doctor within this Darkia realm of mine. What qualifications does he have to be arrogant? Furthermore, he's most likely to be a fake. Kuangfeng, stop hesitating, more is about to die, Xiao Qingtang wailed, on the off chance he is really Poison Saint Blackheart. Shut up. I sent men to invite him, that's already a display of sincerity. He wants me, the almighty Darkia realm king, to personally beg him, a tiny worthless poison doctor. Lei Kuangfeng was a picture of utter rage. If he's a fake, then I, Lei Kuangfeng, would utterly lose face. Even if he's real, with the foundations of our soul sect, should we be compared to a homeless dog of a wandering poison doctor? My soul sect can't detoxify this poison. On what basis is he able to? Sect master, stop this discussion. Lei Kuangfeng cut Lei Dayan off just as he was about to speak. After having been played by this Ling Yun for more than half a month and not even catching a trace of his shadow, his favorite son was now hanging in the balance of life and death due to Ling Yun's machinations. Under these circumstances, how could he keep his cool? He then suddenly recalled and gruffly shouted, "That's it, Thunder Toad, the Thunder Toad. Go and get the gift that the divine martial realm bestowed us. Bring the Thunder Toad here." What? Thunder Toad. Everyone got a big fright, but the Thunder Toad is a poisonous species. If Sect Master's intention is to use poison to fight poison, I'm afraid. Just bring it here now. Perhaps it can save more, yelled Lei Kuangfeng. The poison Guangmo came from an ancient horned dragon that was more than 600,000 years old. This poison wasn't any ordinary poison that could be easily resolved. The most fearsome thing about this wasn't its toxicity, but rather the special life force within it that could also penetrate into the bones and soul of its victim. If a large amount penetrated one's soul, even divine sovereign Mu Bingyun could only just wait for an eventual death. The Thunder Toad could actually use its poison to counteract other poisons, especially under the guidance of Lei Kuangfeng, who was a mighty divine king realm expert. But never in Lei Kuangfeng's life would he have ever guessed that Lei Guangmo's poison came from a poisonous dragon of the divine master realm. Although the Thunder Toad was a rarity compared to the level of the dragon, it was simply a case of being as different as heaven and earth. As the Thunder Toad entered Guangmo's body, they initially saw a measure of effectiveness. The redness on Lei Guangmo's body receded a little bit, and even his painful state started to stabilize. Everyone started to be happy and hopeful. But just a few minutes later, Lei Guangmo's body jerked about furiously as if he was suddenly being shaken by something. It seemed that the poison that was being suppressed by the poison toad had been angered and was now erupting at full force. Crimson fumes accompanied by a toxic aura countless times stronger than earlier started to rise from his body. More? What happened? Why is it like this? Xiao Qingtang's face was totally pale. She screamed herself hoarse. "Mother, save me! Ah, ah!" The blood in every part of his body started to burn with intense heat. The crimson fumes were so thick that it now covered his body, making difficult to see through to him. After letting out the last cry of his life, Lei Guangmo had no more breath in him. He had died under the poisonous effects of the ancient horned dragon. More! More! Xiao Qingtang was inconsolable as she fell to the ground. "Sect Master, Mistress, condolences," Lei Tiangang softly sighed. Lei Kuangfeng stood still, as if his feet were glued to the floor, the pain and anger being evident in his flickering pupils. Not a peep came out of him as his entire body convulsed and he fell backwards. "Sect Master!" Lei Kuangdu shouted in horror, rushing forward to catch him. "Ling Yun! Ling Yun!" Lei Kuangfeng kept on repeating Ling Yun's name as if his soul only had that name imprinted on it. Eventually, he opened his eyes wide as a fiendish aura surged wildly out of him. He roared crazily, "Ling Yun, I will kill you! I will kill you!" Tiangang, immediately activate all activatable defensive formations. Send out all disciples from all 64 halls. Stake out every place that Ling Yun might appear at. Once you find his whereabouts, use everything you have to kill him. Split him into 10,000 pieces. Lei Kuangfeng's roar was like thunder rampaging throughout the entire sect, causing every member of the sect to shudder. The anger, sorrow, and hatred within it terrified each and every disciple within the sect. Send out all disciples from all 64 halls. This order gave Lei Tiangang a big shock. He subconsciously replied, "Sect Master Ling Yun has committed such a heinous act. He has most likely fled far, far away. No, he'll definitely come back for more. He definitely will." All the blood traveled straight up to Lei Kuangfeng's completely red face. His entire body was shaking, as if every vein on his body might explode at any moment. "Go now. If Ling Yun is not found, then don't ever come back." The current Lei Kuangfeng had lost all sense of reason. Lei Tiangang didn't dare to speak any further and immediately left with the order. Soon after, another thunderous roar of anger filled all four corners of the Soul Sect. Lei Kuangfeng's chest rose up and down violently, heaving like a raging bull. With this atmosphere, no one dared speak another word. After quite a long while, Lei Kuangfeng's breathing started to calm down. He gave another order. "Qiandu, immediately notify Guangqian, Yuanj, and the rest in all the branch sects. Get them to return to the main sect and have all the branch sect leaders to personally escort them back. Get them to leave now, not a moment later. Lei Kuangfeng's sons were spread about the different branch sects for training. Lei Guangmo's matter had Lei Kuangfeng terrified that Ling Yun would act against his other sons. Lei Guangmo was dead and Lei Kuangfeng was raging. With the elite 64 halls being dispatched, the sect was quiet for a while, and then another storm struck. Not long after, Yun Qi received a transmission from Jai Ruyan. Sir Ling Yun, the Soul Sect has sent news of Lei Guangmo's death. After reporting this, she remained silent as she really wanted to know what kind of terrifying poison Yun Qi had used to kill Lei Guangmo. This timeline is going according to what I've planned. What's the reaction on the Soul Sect's side? Yun Qi asked. Lei Guangmo was Lei Kuangfeng's favorite son. Dying right in front of him from poison has caused him to lose some sense of reason. He actually activated all 64 halls and all the hall masters, vice hall masters, as well as nearly 2 million disciples to set up ambushes and traps all around the Soul Sect. He has even activated every defensive profound formation they have. As the Black Soul Mountain has many hiding spots, and you've been seen there the most, the Black Soul Mountain has at least 1,000-odd ambushes set up, while defensive formations in that area number over 2,000. I suggest that during this period of time, Sir Ling Yun should most definitely not go anywhere near the Soul Sect. These measures they've taken are nothing like we've ever seen before and cannot be sustained for too long. It's pretty obvious that these orders were issued when Lei Kuangfeng was being impulsive. In a few days' time, when Lei Kuangfeng has somewhat calmed down, we can definitely expect him to retract the order. So what you're saying is that, in order to catch me, he sent out all his disciples from the 64 halls, which also means that the defenses within the main sect itself are weaker than usual by a lot. Having heard what Jai Ruyan had said, Yun Qi's eyes began to shine. Although the disciples of the 64 halls only accounted for 1/4 of the entire sect's numbers, they were instead all of its elites. And now that all of them had been sent out, this meant that the greatest threats, including the hall masters and vice hall masters, were no longer in the sect. That is indeed the case. Jai Ruyan felt it peculiar after hearing what Yun Qi had said. Sir, do you actually have something in mind? Yun Qi didn't reply and continued asking. Lei Kuangfeng should have already sent out the order for all of his sons to return from the branch sects, am I right? This was Yun Qi's main goal. 2 hours ago we did receive that news. Lei Kuangfeng's 6 sons are now all on their way back to the main sect, and they're also being escorted by the respective branch sect masters. By the evening, they should all be back within the main sect. Mister, you'll know tomorrow, around this time. Yun Qi ended the transmission. A cold glint flashed across his pupils. Picking up the sound butterfly blade, he applied again more of the horned dragon's poison on its cold crystal-like edge. Profound strength, it was pursued by countless living beings. It allowed one's soul to become stronger, to allow one to have greater longevity, and to allow one to sit in high places. In order to possess strong and great profound power, one needed months and years, countless fortuitous encounters, a large amount of cultivation resources, and an endless amount of blood and sweat. But just a little bit of poison could render all of that useless, annihilating the greatest of beings. Poison was a fearsome object across the realms. Back then, when Yun Qi was in the Azure Cloud continent and had come into the possession of the Sky Poison Pearl, he had deeply recognized this fact. At that time, his profound strength was pitiable, yet relying on the poisonous abilities of the Sky Poison Pearl. He sent countless experts to the grave who were vastly superior to him in profound strength, even entire sects and cultivation families. At the same time, since the poison was so terrifying, the pearl had attracted the attention of all the great experts in the Azure Cloud continent. And in that regard, be it that of poison or detoxification, the Sky Poison Pearl was unparalleled. At that time in the Azure Cloud continent, he had experienced the sheer power of the poison ability the Sky Poison Pearl possessed. However, after he found out about the heavenly profound treasure ranking and his profound strength repeatedly breaking through, he started to have some doubts about the Sky Poison Pearl's poisonous powers. When it came to the God realm especially, he saw many greater levels of strength, and his suspicions could only grow thicker and stronger. When he was in the Azure Cloud continent, the Sky Poison Pearl was indeed fearsome beyond compare, but when he thought about it again, in the Azure Cloud continent, and considering that it was in one of the lowest realms possible, although it was incredibly fearsome, It could not be considered heaven-defying. Even at its greatest heights of usage, if he released all the poison within the pearl, he was unable to kill a sovereign profound realm expert. As for experts of the divine way, the effects of the poison would be too weak to even see any effect. After that, due to the effects of the mirror of samsara, its poison origin detached itself. When it came back, the poisonous abilities slowly started to recover. During this period, he would spend a short amount of time every now and then to investigate the recovery of the poisonous half of the sky poison pearl. Until today, all the poison that had been accumulated, let alone an expert in the divine way, it wouldn't be enough to kill a normal overlord. The sky poison pearl was, however, ranked among the top in the heavenly profound treasure rankings, which vastly surpassed the god realm. In fact, it should be an existence greater than the true gods, so much that it was on the same level as the creation gods. To be a treasure of such proportions, even if it possessed a little bit of what it should be so terrifying that it'd be considered heaven-defying even in this era. After accumulating its poison powers for so long, why did all of its current poison not even equal that of a tiny pin-sized drop of ancient horned dragon poison? And the difference was that of heaven and earth. Was the poison power of the sky poison pearl that weak? Or was it because it was lacking something? This thought once again flashed through Xianxia's mind. He started to ascend his direction toward the Soul Sect. Red butterfly in the darkness of night's Soul Sect. The night was dark and the winds never ending. On this night, killing intent permeated every corner of the sect. Although it was deep into the night, the entire Soul Sect remained brightly lit. Every disciple of the sect was unable to fall asleep. They were on tenterhooks as they were facing a mighty foe. After all the commotion and Lei Kuangfeng's roars that had filled the sect, everyone now knew that on top of the thousands of disciples, even the favorite son of the sect master had died by Ling Yun's hands. They even knew that Ling Yun could have immediately killed him, yet he chose to poison Guangmo, making him die a painful death before Lei Kuangfeng's eyes. Just as Ling Yun had intended, Lei Kuangfeng was experiencing so much pain and anger that he was going crazy. Soul Sect had set up traps and ambush squads all around. All 64 halls had been mobilized. This was without a doubt terribly excessive, but the sect master was on a raging warpath and no one was about to dare defy his orders. On the outskirts of the sect, there were 4 disciples guarding their designated position. They didn't dare slack off. All of a sudden, a strange red glow could be found in their pupils. Their bodies froze, not moving one bit, as if they had turned into stone. Beside them, Xianxia slowly appeared. In this period of time, combining the invisible state together with the soul-burning red butterfly came easily to Xianxia. He was executing it while moving around the area of the Soul Sect. When he had first left the Snow Song realm, he had to take extra care when executing Moon Splitting Cascade. His footwork would sometimes reveal the origins of his technique, but right now he more or less had mastery over the technique and could move with freedom and confidence. What was great about the red butterfly domain was that there was no leakage of profound energy at all, and it could kill without any sound or movement. Its most frightening ability was to annihilate the souls of its victims, and despite this, their life auras would not disappear, nor were there any obvious changes. Even if someone was constantly monitoring the area with their spirit perception, they wouldn't be able to sense that the victims had died. The consciousness of all 4 Soul Sect disciples were completely annihilated, as their minds were submerged in the red butterfly domain. Their consciousness were covered in and unable to resist the myriad flame-like butterflies. They couldn't escape nor struggle. All it would take was one thought of Xianxia's, and their consciousness would be completely devoured by the flame butterflies. But Xianxia didn't do so. His main goal, after all, wasn't to kill them. His gaze swept the area, and he chose one man at random, his left arm reaching out and releasing his profound handle into that man's consciousness. The opponent was already trapped within the red butterfly domain and did not have any ability to resist. As the profound handle went in, several of his memories entered Xianxia's mind. Xianxia's eyes instantly glinted. Reading this Soul Sect disciple's memories wasn't just to understand the inner workings of the Soul Sect. More importantly, he wanted to know where Lei Kuangfeng's other sons were. He was prepared to scour several individuals, but who have thought that just this one disciple was able to give him all the information he needed. Very good, Xianxia muttered to himself. He withdrew his arm and all traces of him vanished. A few breaths later, all 4 Soul Sect disciples regained consciousness. I seem to have zoned out for a moment. All 4 disciples thought the same exact thing to themselves at the moment. They were still standing up straight and as stiff as sticks, earnestly on guard, clearly not realizing what had happened. Even more so, they didn't realize that there was a human figure striding past them. Although not being able to compare to the Divine Ice Phoenix sect in the Ice Phoenix realm, the main branch of the Soul Sect was still enough to be considered huge. Measuring from north to south, it was a few hundred kilometers. If he hadn't known the layout and soul searched the aforementioned, it would have been akin to looking for a needle in a haystack. The atmosphere tonight in the Soul Sect was completely abnormal. The sect master's son had died. The entire Soul Sect had sent forth all 64 Hall disciples under the anger of Lei Kuangfeng. The sect from top to bottom was way quieter than usual. Suddenly Xianxia heard an ear-shattering roar break through the silence. Over 5,000 disciples dead, and this king's very own son also died at the hands of Ling Yun. We are the Soul Sect, and we've actually been led by the nose and played to such a point by someone who is in the divine soul realm. To this date, all of you have been incompetent. Are this king's subordinates all useless bums? I don't give a damn what methods you all use. 5 days. This king gives you 5 days. Even if you have to turn the entire Darkia realm upside down, you had better give me Ling Yun alive. I want to personally torture him. I will personally make sure all that remains of his bones are ashes. Is there still no news from the Pure Moon realm? A bunch of trash. Still no news of Ling Yun's whereabouts. Those trash no longer need to come back. This is Lei Kuangfeng's voice. Being able to rage and shout so in the Soul Sect, there could be no other candidate. Looks like he really has a bad temper. His voice was very husky, and it carried an astonishing malevolence. Even Xianxia could hear it from his position, which was quite a distance away. Xianxia could feel a powerful aura coming from the direction of the voice. Just feeling this aura was suffocating enough to cause a heavy pressure on his chest. Lei Kuangfeng, sect master of the Black Soul Divine Sect, the realm king of the Darkia realm, the Darkia realm's one and only person in the Divine King realm. The other auras beside him were without question extremely strong as well. They were auras that he couldn't match up to. Auras of those in the Divine Spirit realm. Ruyan had mentioned before that Soul Sect had several Divine Spirit realm experts. They included several elders, the 64 Hall masters, and a limited number of branch sect masters. Quite obviously, the currently raging Lei Kuangfeng had gathered the strongest of the sect together in a meeting, and the reason was because of him. After a moment of hesitation, Xianxia slowly backtracked, changing his course. He avoided the direction in which he could sense Lei Kuangfeng's aura. This was within the Soul Sect. Once he was discovered, he'd be like a fish on a chopping block, doomed to die. There was no such thing as luck now. Although he was confident in his Moon Splitting Cascade, he still had to stay vigilant and cautious. Though he was cautious, his speed wasn't slow. One by one, groups and groups of Soul Sect disciples walked past him. None of them could have ever imagined that the Ling Yun they wanted to capture was actually swaggering about leisurely in their main sect grounds. The leaders of the sect were now in a meeting. All 64 Hall masters were out. All that Xianxia could see around him on his way were low-ranking disciples. After reading several of their memories, he had arrived at his first target's location. This was a luxurious courtyard. If an ordinary person stepped in, they would have thought that they had stepped into an emperor's palace. The guards here weren't many, but maids in makeup numbered more than the guards. They waited subserviently outside the doors of the magnificent palace. The doors slowly opened halfway and Xianxia entered without a sound. "Kyaner, more has already left. Mother just has you left, my son. Don't go anywhere these few days. Even if there's a sky-shaking matter, you're not to step 1 foot out of the sect. If you're assassinated, Mother will no longer have anything to live for." Within the room, a green-clothed, youthful lady's eyes were filled with tears. In front of her was a strong and stout young man who had a large black beard on his face. He was Lei Kuangfeng's oldest son, the young sect master of the Soul Sect. He was the blood brother of the recently deceased Lei Kuangfeng. Both of them had come from the same mother. "Mother, do not despair any longer. Royal Father will definitely get Ling Yun and take revenge for 7th brother," Lei Kuangfeng replied. "Ah, this disaster was brought on us by your Royal Father. Why did retribution have to fall on more? Mother doesn't place any hope on your Royal Father being able to catch Ling Yun. Who knows where he's run to? He might remain forever elusive. As long as you're safe, that's what's most important," the lady wailed. "Mother, Yun Qi raised his eyebrows, so this lady in green was Lei Kuangfeng's official wife. If I didn't recall wrongly, her name is Xianxia Cultivation. On the surface, she even looked a generation younger than this Lei Guangqian. Is that Ling Yun really so terrifying? Why does he bear such a deep grudge with our soul sect? Are the rumors true? What I've heard was that this is a result of royal father constantly sending men to hunt the wood spirit race. Xianxia Cultivation didn't say a word and nodded silently. Bah! This Ling Yun must be a lunatic. Lei Guangqian slapped the table, gritting his teeth. The wood spirits are born to live wretched lives. If we don't kill them, others will still kill them. Just because of a few wood spirits, he wishes to constantly act against our soul sect and even killed my seventh brother. Now that royal father has been completely angered. Even if this Ling Yun is 10 times stronger than he is now, he won't be able to elude us for a few more days. Just leave him be, he will accompany those wood spirits in death. Kainer, you must never say this, even more so, you must never mention any of this to anyone outside. Xianxia Cultivation shook her head. The hunting of the wood spirit race is forbidden in the entire God realm. I've counseled your father several times. With our current backing, we actually have no need for such shady methods, but he never heeded me. Now, Kainer, when you succeed him as sect master, please don't forget how your seventh brother died. You must never continue the tradition of hunting wood spirits. Yun Qi squinted. At least you still have a heart. I'll let you off, though I never intended to kill you. Yes, mother, this child understands. Although Lei Guangqian agreed on his lips, but the look on his face clearly showed otherwise. Xianxia Cultivation and Lei Guangqian would never in dreams imagined that a pair of eyes was watching them coldly almost 10 meters away. Kainer, take a good rest tonight. Come tomorrow, your royal father will have some words for all of you. Remember, do not ever leave the sect. Xianxia Cultivation reminded him once more as she departed. All of you can leave, the young sect master is going to rest. Xianxia Cultivation closed the doors as the rest of the maids hurriedly took their leave. The instant the door closed, Yun Qi calmly walked towards Lei Guangqian. Without any hesitation, he released the red butterfly domain without a sound. Lei Guangqian's profound strength was in the late stages of the divine soul realm, so casting the red butterfly domain on him might not work 100%. However, he was in his own sect and his own courtyard. He would not have his soul on guard. Just as he felt a little strange, his soul had been entirely trapped within the red butterfly domain. He stood there, eyes lifeless, drool coming out of his mouth. If he had tried to escape when Yun Qi first released the domain, he would most likely have been able to escape. Now that he had fallen completely under its effects, however, he was completely unable to escape. Lei Guangqian's consciousness entered the red butterfly domain. As long as Yun Qi wanted, he could instantaneously annihilate his soul and turn him into the living dead. But Yun Qi was not going to do so. He lifted the sound butterfly blade and used the tip where he had smeared the ancient horned dragon's poison and gently cut him on the back of his neck. Yun Qi then turned around and sped towards his next target. Yun Qi didn't immediately dispel the domain. He wanted Lei Guangqian to exit it eventually, and that would take around 1 to 2 hours. And after that duration, Yun Qi would already be safe and far away from the soul sect. After leaving the courtyard, Yun Qi sped towards his next target, Lei Kuangfeng's second son, Lei Yuan's. Under the cover of the night, within another 30 minutes of time, the same procedure repeated itself. Without sight or sound, utilizing Moon Splitting Cascade and perfectly pairing it with the red butterfly domain, all of Lei Kuangfeng's 6 sons were trapped in the domain and poisoned. They all had the ancient horned dragon poison in them. Even when Yun Qi stepped out of the soul sect's main gates, they were all none the wiser. Stepping out of the soul sect, Yun Qi blinked and gave a self-satisfied, cold laugh. Lei Kuangfeng, enjoy this big present of mine. Just don't get too excited, the biggest one has yet to come. Qi headed straight to the west. In order to return to Darkia City, he had to cross the Black Soul mountain range first. Although a large number of disciples of the Black Soul Divine Sect were lying in ambush in the mountain range, given the fact that he had Moon Splitting Cascade, he was confident that no one would be able to notice his existence as long as he was a bit careful. It was, after all, too impractical to make a detour around the Black Soul mountain range, compared to overlooking such an ignorable risk. It was also unlikely that the disciples of the Black Soul Divine Sect, who were forced to come here following orders and were waiting idly for an opportunity, would truly believe that they would actually get one. Entering the Black Soul mountain range, Xianxia swept his spirit sense over the surroundings and discovered the auras of a large number of soul sect disciples and profound formations. He let out a disdainful laugh and quickly moved forward without making a sound, in his invisible state. Evading many disciples and profound formations, he soon entered the depths of the mountain range. As it was night time, the fog in the Black Soul mountain range was extremely dense, greatly restricting the sight and perception of everyone present. Therefore, the mountain range at night was several times safer than during the daytime to Xianxia. He didn't face any kind of sudden danger at all on his way so far. It was at this time that a profound light soared into the sky all of a sudden, from a place not that far ahead of him, which appeared especially dazzling in the dark of the night. Someone triggered a profound formation. No, how is it possible for anyone to burst into such a place at this period of time? Could it be some profound beast? Considering how there were such a large number of people lying in ambush, triggering a profound formation was, without a shadow of a doubt, simply equivalent to poking a hornet's nest. All the disciples of the Black Soul Divine Sect that were hiding in the surroundings were immediately alarmed by the profound formation, and their shouts could be heard from here and there as they flocked towards it. It wasn't the sound of a profound beast that came from the direction of the glowing profound formation, but the scream of a young girl. Who are you people? Are you a group of bad guys? I'm so afraid. Xianxia was snorting disdainfully when he heard a voice. In an instant, his face went stiff as his eyes widened. This voice, don't tell me it's little Jasmine. Xianxia furrowed his brows. He slowly climbed up a tall tree beside him and looked far into the distance. A petite and dainty figure was trapped within a profound formation that was flashing with profound light. She was dressed in rainbow-like multicolored clothing, and her milky white face was amazingly perfect. Even though it was night time, starry light could be still seen flickering in her eyes. It was none other than little Jasmine, being stranded inside the profound formation, and then, getting surrounded by more and more people all of a sudden, she seemed to be very scared. She had her body curled up as her extremely beautiful starry eyes timidly looked at the people around her. Why was she here? Not only that, she even made the blunder of coming into contact with the profound formation of the soul sect at such a time. Seeing the girl before their eyes, all the disciples of the soul sect gazed at each other helplessly. Why is it a little girl? Her profound power is only at the Emperor Profound realm? No, how is it possible for her to have come to this place? There's definitely someone who has come here along with her. SSS, look at the face of this little girl. SSS, young master will certainly like her. Oh no, we should first seize her and hand her over to the sect master. What do you think? Hearing their words, little Jasmine became even more scared. She said whatever came to her mind while panicking a bit. You can't bully me, and you're even more not allowed to seize me. Let me tell you, my brother-in-law is Ling Yun, the most famous person in the Darkia realm right now. If you dare to bully me, brother-in-law will certainly not forgive you guys. At number percent, Xianxia almost vomited a mouthful of blood on the spot. There was no doubt that suddenly hearing the name of Ling Yun from little Jasmine's mouth was no different from firmly poking the hornet's nest for a second time. The disciples of the soul sect who had different looks in their eyes until this moment were all startled at the same time. Soon after, an abrupt change appeared on their expressions. Ling Yun, she just said Ling Yun. Capture her. We have to capture her at once, a leader shouted in a high voice. Looking helplessly at everything that happened, Xianxia's face twitched continuously. He had no time to ponder the reason behind the appearance of the little girl at this place or the means she used to get here. The only thing he was incomparably sure about was that if she were to fall in the hands of the soul sect, she would have an extremely miserable end. Especially now that she had called out his name, of all things. But the whole place was crowded with countless elite disciples of the soul sect. There were also powerful vice hall masters present, as well as hall masters who had far greater strength than him. If he made his presence known in order to save her, it would be equivalent to walking right into the trap. Xianxia exerted himself to take a breath secretly. No, he couldn't let himself be bothered by her. She was neither his relative nor friend. Not only had he already saved her twice, he had even almost lost his life due to her the last time. He was feeling so annoyed that he wanted to rain curses on her. If he were to save her again this time, it would absolutely be as good as really having a death wish, acting masochistically and being a complete moron. Having come to a conclusion, Xianxia shifted his gaze away. Following the order, the disciples that were closest to her rushed over right away. Seeing the fierce and intimidating group of people coming towards her, the helpless girl let out a terrified shriek. "Wuya, someone save me!" In the midst of her shriek, the image of a crimson flame blew up in the sky. Like a shooting star falling from the sky, it instantly triggered a terrifying blast upon reaching the ground. Boom! As the flame light blew apart and sword aura thundered, the several hundred disciples in the surroundings were drawn into the abyss of death in no time. Their bodies were blasted into fragments as they miserably screamed in extreme terror. The profound formation in which the girl was sealed was also blown apart in a split second. That image of flame picked up little Jasmine and fled away without any delay, soaring into the sky like a storm. The girl let out a very long cry of fear, but when she got a clear look at the person beside her, she immediately shouted in joy, "Wow, it's brother-in-law! Shut up!" Xianxia increased his speed to the limit and roared while gnashing his teeth. "What the hell is wrong with me? Why do I lose control over myself every time I meet this little girl as if I'm under some spell?" FCK, all the disciples of the Soul Sect were thrown into great disorder due to the sudden and unexpected change in the situation. "Who is it?" "Ling Yun. He's definitely Ling Yun. It's Ling Yun. Ling Yun has made his appearance. Immediately encircle and finish him. Quickly send a sound transmission to the Sect Master and Chief Hall Master." They had thought that they wouldn't be able to get any results by idly waiting for the opportunity, but to their surprise, they truly got the chance to catch their target. In the silent night, each and every disciple of the Soul Sect was on the move. The crowd of those who were lying in ambush in the Black Soul Mountain region and got alarmed by the huge movement of the disciples of the 64 halls, who had obtained the information through sound transmission, immediately surged like a tide as they rushed forward from all directions, straight at Xianxia. Numerous auras were firmly locked onto him, and countless other auras were rapidly approaching him from all directions. Among them were more than 10 auras that were powerful enough to thoroughly crush him single-handedly. "Sect Master is really wise. He speculated that you would definitely come here. Ling Yun, let's see if you can escape this time. Sect Master has ordered, there's no need to capture him alive. Kill him on the spot." Little Jasmine tightly huddled up in his arms as she said in a frightened voice, "Brother-in-law, why are there so many bad guys at this place?" "You're not allowed to say a word," Xianxia roared. Members of the Soul Sect had surrounded the place, so it was going to be extremely hard for him to keep his life after exposing himself, especially in a situation where he had to divert his attention and power to protect the little girl. "Brother-in-law, why do you always appear at once whenever I'm in danger? Do you constantly follow me around in secret to protect me? If you don't shut your mouth, I'll throw you away. Didn't brother-in-law say that you wouldn't care about me last time, too? Hee, I simply don't believe your words. At number percent, this little girl can still laugh in such a situation. Ling Yun, get ready to die." In the dark night sky that was covered with grayish fog, countless black figures could be seen soaring into the sky. The entire scene seemed like Xianxia and little Jasmine were caught within a vast net of disciples as they drew nearer to the two at a fast speed. Flames ignited in Xianxia's pupils. He was holding the heaven-smiting sword in his right hand, while his was body on fire. He didn't even glance at the approaching disciples and just swung it heavily downward. He had put all his power behind the sword. The greater the number of enemies he was facing, the more clearly his heavy sword could display its utmost might. Boom! The disciples of the Soul Sect within an area of several kilometers around Xianxia were all blown away uncontrollably as the firmament shook and the sky thundered, along with the sounds of miserable shrieks. Like dumplings smashing onto the ground, the ones with lighter injuries were severely injured, and those with heavier injuries died on the spot. Pressing forward with the force of his sword, Xianxia activated extreme mirage lightning under his feet. Even though he was carrying little Jasmine, his figure still moved as fast as a stream of light, making its way through the swarming crowd of disciples like a sharp knife. His heaven-smiting sword slashed down unrestrainedly with a whistling sound, as if a hurricane had been generated by the swing. Boom! An enormous sound once again resounded throughout the place. The blazing flames containing boundless power of destruction burst apart and covered the night sky, illuminating it with scarlet color. Flesh and blood were flying everywhere under the red light, as the land below littered with corpses. Only 2 attacks from the sword caused all the disciples of the Soul Sect to be thoroughly frightened. All those who were charging over to him slowed their pace, as their scalps went numb and they shivered crazily in their hearts. The disciples were so taken aback that they didn't dare to believe their eyes. There was no one in the Soul Sect who was unaware of Ling Yun's name, but the impression they had of him was that he was someone with an extremely strong hiding ability. They thought that he could only dare plot against them in secret and wouldn't dare to show himself before them. Who would have thought that after exposing himself, Ling Yun would turn out to be such a fearsome person? He was heavily surrounded and suppressed by a large number of auras. Furthermore, they were all the most elite disciples of the Black Soul Divine Sect, and yet it was the corpses of people from their side that were piling up on the ground. Profound energy was frantically surging from all over Yun Qi's body as he maintained his speed to its limit, getting rid of more and more enemies in his way. He was sure that once he slowed down a bit, he would be perfectly encircled and end up dying without a doubt. Every time the heaven-smiting sword in his hand launched an attack, the Soul Sect disciples ahead of him would die in one explosion after another. Even the weakest of the disciples was at the Divine Origin realm, and there were also many experts of the Divine Soul realm. But in front of Yun Qi, who was only at the early stage of the Divine Soul realm, let alone resisting his attacks, as long as they came into contact with the aftershocks of his attack, they would be instantly injured even if they managed to survive. The entire Black Soul Mountain range trembled for a brief time as the whistling sound of a hurricane and the thunderous sound of sword aura echoed throughout the area. The sky filled with blood, and the battered alongside broken limbs and bones. Watching the situation play out in such an unforeseen way, all the disciples of the Soul Sect felt an indescribable shock. However, Yun Qi was gnashing his teeth this whole time. Using the sword with one hand not only greatly lessened its might, it also caused a big increase in the exhaustion of his profound strength. But it was enough to deal with the ordinary disciples of the sect for the time being, but only if he was facing the ordinary disciples of the Soul Sect. In the case where an expert of the Divine Tribulation realm were to arrive and increase the pressure on him a bit, it would change the situation. Given the fact that he was completely surrounded by the disciples of the Soul Sect, facing such an expert would only lead to a dreadful outcome for him. It was imperative for him to quickly think of a way, or else he would have to prepare himself to die here tonight. It would be nothing more than wishful thinking to force his way out in the current circumstances. He needed to conceal himself by first severing all the auras locked onto him, and then make use of the dense fog in the night. It was sole method to left to him in order to escape from the siege. Seriously, what the FCK? Couldn't this little girl have called herself something else? Why does she so insist on calling herself Little Jasmine? Bang, 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 bang. Dozens of black streaks of lightning pierced through the storm of sword energy and struck right at Yun Qi's back. The sound produced upon their contact with his body, however, was quite muffled as if they had hit a steel plate. Yun Qi staggered slightly, and the upper part of his robe got broken to pieces. But there were only a few shallow scars on his bare skin, and not a single drop of blood oozed out of his body. Before the disciples of the Soul Sect who had managed to hit him could reveal joy at their success, their eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets in fear when they saw the scene before them. After obtaining the Buddha Heart Divine Veins, Yun Qi's ability to channel profound energy throughout his body had become extremely fast. Hence, his ability to effectively use the Heaven-Smiting Sword had also become much better than in the past. But now that he was using the sword with one hand, the flaw of handling it in such a manner had resulted in a far greater negative effect on him compared to earlier. Although it was difficult for the disciples of the Soul Sect to get closer to him, their profound energy and lightning profound powers were continuously hitting him like torrential rain. He might not get severely injured by them, but his body did get riddled with blood-red marks in the blink of an eye.